What's going on, guys? DIY Dale back at it again. We're in the studio. Some Heidelberg grads, Ohio State grad. This is a big one. This is a really cool interview. Cory Martinson, a good friend, a great lawyer, great father, an amazing wrestler. This guy has done it all, from St. Ed's out of Cleveland to Heidelberg University to the Ohio State with a law degree. I mean, this guy couldn't get much better. The reality is, we're going to talk about everything from fatherhood to your professional career, to kind of how you lead as a father, how you lead at the job, your relationship with your family, and we're really going to get to know so many things that this guy has to offer for the community, to young men out there that want to lead like him, maybe that want to go to law school, the process behind that. So without further ado, the legend, Cory Martinson. So
Appreciate that.
yeah. All right, man. So let's start off with, I guess, give us just a little background about what's your current job, just to kind of update us before we kind of dive into where you even started. So what's your current day-to-day job and like your process with that?
Yeah, so day to day, I'm a business attorney at a Cleveland-based law firm, Cabbage.
Okay.
I've been there for 10 years since I graduated law school, as you mentioned, from Ohio State. Mainly focused my practice on being outside general counsel for closely held companies, a lot of them family-owned businesses. So they'll call on a variety of issues, whether it be contractual basis, they get into a dispute, could be a dispute with another business, dispute with customers, it could be a dispute with employee. We do a lot of employment work, help companies buy and sell real estate, get in and out of leases, buy and sell other companies if it is strategic for them to do so. We also have a good size estate and succession planning group, so we help the families that own these companies plan their lives and transition of wealth from one generation to another,
Okay.
whether that be transitioning business ownership or selling the company and then transitioning the wealth from that business. So we have a pretty robust group at the firm that does that. But my main focus is on the business side itself, and also help out individuals as well in some business related matter. Maybe they have a problem with a business that they've had an interaction with. So do quite a broad base of things.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like you just aren't primarily focusing on just small business. Now, is it better that you kind of open your playbook a little bit to take in more work? Or, I mean, is that standard across the industry or what?
It's not. It works for me.
So you versus the firm is different. Like, you get to choose this.
Yeah, at
Okay.
my firm you do, and different firms work differently. There are some firms where attorneys are more siloed off or get more specific in the type of work that they do. At my firm, I would say generally people wear different hats or do different things and have a broader base of expertise. I would say I'm on the broad end of that, even for my firm. I do both general corporate work, and I also litigate and handle business disputes. So I'm doing everything from helping people protect intellectual property, apply for trademarks, and then protect that intellectual property, all the way to I'm having this dispute that ends up in court. How do you help me navigate it?
Huh. So to break it down for all the dumb guys out there, it's essentially what I do at F1 Contracting. I just don't do framing. In my head, it simplifies it as, if I could take in more and I have the ability to do it, it's like, why not offer that?
Yeah.
Because there's no licensing for what you do other than, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no specialty.
There is only for a very small subset of things. So generally, when you become an attorney, you're going to take a bar exam.
Okay.
When I took it, it was the Ohio bar exam. There's now something called the UBE, that will potentially allow people to be licensed in multiple different states, so long as they complete whatever additional requirement.
So you're not licensed, or you are just licensed in Ohio?
So I'm just licensed in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
I've been an attorney long enough now that if I needed to do what's called waive into another state, I could go through an application process with that state and get barred in another state through a reciprocity process. So Ohio might have that with, let's say, Michigan, where Michigan attorneys could come to Ohio, go through our process to become an Ohio attorney after they've been in a Michigan attorney for a certain amount of time. And same thing the other way for me as an Ohio attorney. There's several states that doesn't apply for. Florida's the most notable one.
Really?
Yeah, so they're like a non-reciprocity states. It's more common amongst what you would generally consider like the retirement states. Florida, Arizona, Nevada. And the reason that they cut down on that is because
all the transplants.
They don't want the guy that's been an Ohio attorney for his career retiring at 70 years old, coming down to Florida and then opening up shop and doing stuff in his spare time. So they actually have some additional measures in place in those states. They'll raise the cost of applying, or you have to take the bar exam over there, which most people after conducting a whole career are not going to study for and do again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I guess, okay, so I have a concealed carry license. I have reciprocity in certain states. And I'm thinking when I travel, it carries over in certain states in terms of legality of me carrying. So let's say, for example, something happens in Michigan and I have to go to court there. Since you're my lawyer, can you defend me there?
Yeah,
does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, it does. So there's multiple different ways you can do that. You could do it through the process that I was just talking about, where if I had several clients that were constantly having something in Michigan and I wanted to become a Michigan licensed or barred attorney, I would go through that more formalized process and get that licensing in Michigan. If it's just kind of one-off, you can waive in essentially for an individualized matter.
Like an expedited process.
It's called to use the Latin words, pro hoc vice admission into a court. And so you're essentially asking the court in that state to say, I have this client, they have this matter here, admit me for just this matter in that court. You have to have local counsel along with that.
Really?
I would get a Michigan attorney to be my local counsel, but because you're my client and I...
So now I'm paying double just because of the situation?
Well, normally we'll mitigate that. They know the rules of that court and that state more so than the Ohio attorney that's not practiced there might. And so that's why it's generally a requirement in those states to have that local counsel. But you're essentially working as a team, just like I would work with the attorneys in my firm as a team on something. So I think, at least for us, we do a good job of not allowing the necessity of having to have local counsel in a different state really cause an increase in cost for our clients.
It's more a better outcome.
It's a better outcome, and it's what has to happen, because the other option is I just ship you off to that Michigan attorney who doesn't really know you or your business. You don't really know them. So you get the comfort of the relational aspect that you already have with me or my firm, or if it was some other Ohio attorney, them. But they're then able to waive into that court because they have that local counsel there with them. They go through the process, they get approved by that court for that matter, and then you're just essentially permitted to conduct that matter there. Once that matter ends, your permission to practice law in that state ends with it.
Now, would it be advantageous for me, let's say, and I'm using Michigan guys because my wife's up there, something can happen, you never know, and you represent us at the end of the day. Would it be advantageous for you to find a lawyer up there locally, right, that, I guess that has a good relationship with the court system, somebody that has an angle that you're just not going to have? Is that something you're looking for?
Yeah, sometimes it is, and sometimes it matters what state or what court you're within that state.
Yeah.
If you want to find like a real local guy,
Yeah.
or maybe you want to partner with a more national or regional firm that has offices in Cleveland just like we do, but then they also have offices in that state and in that county that you might be in. So it just depends on a matter by matter basis.
Okay.
My firm's part of a national, in fact, international group of attorneys, accountants, other business professionals. It's called GGI.
Okay.
And so oftentimes we might have a matter that's out of state. We had one, say out of Missouri or Kansas, where we don't really know anybody. It's not likely that you maybe went to law school or even undergrad with somebody that's now out there practicing. And so you don't have a direct connection. You can rely on this network. So like we're the only attorneys in Cleveland that are part of that network.
Okay.
Same.
Really?
There would be one. And it's designed that way. There would be one attorney in Columbus, one attorney or law firm in Cincinnati, one in Topeka, Kansas.
So is there other attorneys in Cleveland? And sorry to cut you off.
No, that's all right.
I just don't want to lose the thought. Is there other attorneys in Cleveland that might be part of another network?
Yeah, there's other networks out there like that. And then you have larger firms that might have offices in multiple locations that are then going to have attorneys at those locations that are licensed in those states. And we have attorneys that are licensed in other states as well, Florida in particular, because of that lack of reciprocity. Pennsylvania, we used to have somebody licensed in Michigan as well. So sometimes within a single office, you'll have an attorney or multiple attorneys that are licensed in other states. But what that network does is it gives us a direct point of contact in other places to reach out to them and say, hey, we have a matter that's in your state or in your county, even in your city, and we need local counsel so we can come in and help our client on that. And so it gives us a direct path where we're not searching around trying to find an attorney and then wondering, is this a good fit?
Yeah, you already got somebody within the network that you can kind of search a database or whatever.
That's right. And it's not just an attorney-based network. There's other business professionals as well that we can draw on from that network.
So if you guys need help and you're in a situation or you need a good lawyer, Cory's the guy. So
I appreciate that. And yeah, we're definitely capable of doing stuff. Certainly in Ohio, anywhere, but also throughout the country. We even have international clients that utilize us.
Really?
A colleague of mine actually is Chinese, and so he works with a lot of companies that are either Chinese companies that are looking to do business in the United States or U.S.-based companies that are looking to do business with Chinese companies, and he has a good amount of expertise on that. So even though we're a Cleveland-based firm, we have international reach.
Wow. All right, guys. So you got international reach, you got local reach, you got state reach. I guess let's hit this rewind button now, and I really want to talk about, I guess, how essentially you got here. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about this, and we'll get to it in 1 second. All right, guys, welcome back. What we're going to talk about now is essentially where you started, which technically, did you grow up in Brunswick? Were you raised in Brunswick? Did you guys move? Because you definitely didn't attend Brunswick.
Yeah.
So I guess walk us through that.
Well, I did for a while.
Oh, you did?
So I was essentially born and raised in Brunswick,
Ohio,
yeah, right up the road from here. And I went to Brunswick Public School through 8th grade.
Okay.
So Huntington Elementary to Edwards Middle School. And actually at Edwards, the gym teacher there at the time was the wrestling coach as well for the middle school. And I had wrestled, literally for like a week when I was maybe in like 3rd or 4th grade. And then I broke my pinky really bad playing like neighborhood football.
Okay.
And so I had to stop wrestling at that time.
Oh, wow.
And I never really thought about it again until I was in middle school.
So you took a break from wrestling?
Yeah, I never really got started. I think I really went to like 2 or 3 practices over the course of 1 week.
Well, you guys don't understand how good of a wrestler he is.
Broke my finger.
To hear about this, I didn't know that. I thought you were one of those fucking, dude, I was bred to wrestle and didn't miss a lick of it.
No, so my dad wrestled, probably for like a year or 2 in like middle school, I think.
Yeah.
My dad and his brother were like phenomenal athletes,
Yeah.
but they were not ones to listen to anybody.
Sure.
So they would not want to be a part of organized sports or do anything like that.
They were rebels, huh?
A little bit.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, especially his older brothers. So that kind of trickled down to him. So they really never did anything organized. But for me, growing up, like played everything.
Right.
Gymnastics, soccer, baseball, basketball, and then wanted to try wrestling. Like I said, did it for a week, literally, and then broke my finger pretty bad playing football in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And so stopped and never really thought about it again.
Yeah.
And then at middle school, which at the time started in sixth grade, I think we were the first class to be sixth grade middle schoolers in Brunswick. The gym teacher took kind of note of me in gym class as my general athleticism and aggressiveness, and said, you should come out and try wrestling again.
Okay.
So even though you were in middle school in sixth grade, you couldn't compete until you were in seventh grade. So I came out, and I remember...
Yeah, because that would have been like youth wrestling.
Yeah.
I didn't start wrestling until I was in seventh grade. That's right.
If you wanted to compete as a sixth grader, you were still part of the youth program.
Yep, that's right.
Which is what I did for, like I said, 2-3 practices over a week for that time, and then...
So did you play sports prior to this? Like, were you like in organized football, or you were in organized everything, like you said, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I actually never played football organized as a young kid. I didn't start that until middle school as well.
Okay.
But soccer was probably the earliest thing I did.
Yeah.
And that's because my mom was a coach, and so got us into that pretty young, my sister and I, and she actually did it all the way up through the collegiate level. So did soccer, loved baseball growing up. That was kind of like my thing.
Okay.
Started playing that as a young kid, and then started wrestling, did basketball as well as a young kid. I think there was even a couple years in middle school where I did basketball and wrestling.
Yeah. Until you stopped growing.
Well, the weight cutting kind of probably contributed to that a little bit. But so finally got back into it in sixth grade. I remember after like a week or two of practice, I'm like, this sucks. I gotta stop doing this.
That's hilarious to know
And
that.
it was like, just like, give it another week.
Yeah.
You know, you'll end up liking it.
Yeah.
So I did, and he was ultimately right. I kind of fell into place and really started to enjoy it. But all I really got to do was practice that first year because there was no opportunity to really compete. The only opportunity that I had was at an open tournament. It was like the Junior Medina Invitational tournament that we got to go to and actually got to compete at.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, pretty distinctly for being a sixth grader.
Yeah.
And I just remember like getting to finally see that payoff of all the practice that I was doing and the feeling that you got when you won a match and everything. And so you kind of I got hooked.
How'd you do
to that part of it?
Do you remember?
I did pretty well.
Did you?
Yeah. Luckily enough, like I was a pretty athletic kid.
Okay.
And so I think that really helped me coming back into wrestling is that I had a lot of success early on at that level that I was at.
Yeah.
And, you know, had I come in and just lost all the time, I don't know how much I would have liked it just because it's so tough of a sport, especially as a young kid. If you don't have those wins to kind of bolster and pay off all the hard work, it might be tough. But, you know, I know several people, including guys that we went to school with that started younger than me, and, you know, they would tell you, I lost all the time as a young kid. They ended up becoming collegiate wrestlers because they stuck with it.
Sure.
Eventually kind of either grew into their own bodies or their own style or whatever it might be, and then became successful doing it. But that's kind of what happened with me. So practice sixth grade for all intents and purposes, and then seventh grade start to compete on a regular basis, and just went from there. And so that middle school gym teacher, wrestling coach, is still a good friend of mine.
Okay. What's his name?
It's Ed Pucci.
Shout out to Ed Pucci.
Yeah, he's
for building a legend right here.
He's still, like I said, a good friend of mine, a mentor in my life.
So how the hell did you get out of Brunswick? Like, where's that transition happen?
That's kind of attributed to him as well.
Oh, really?
Towards the end of, or maybe middle of my eighth grade year, probably during wrestling season, the conversation started to happen, I guess. And I don't really distinctly remember the conversation happening with me involved necessarily, but I think between him and my parents to start was, I think you should consider sending Cory to a private school for high school.
So it wasn't necessarily pushing Ed's. It was just you could excel somewhere that focused on this a little bit more, a better program, better people around you.
Yeah, essentially.
Wow, okay.
And I have an older brother. He's a bit older than me, 8.5 years older than me, but
I know him.
He went through Brunswick all the way, K through high school.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, so my older brother went all the way through, and that's what I thought I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what my parents thought I was going to do until Pucci really brought it up to them. And actually, he had connections at Walsh Jesuit.
Okay.
And so that was the first place that we looked.
Okay.
But that kind of started a process of looking at various different private schools, Walsh, Ignatius, Eds, Holy Name, Padua.
Do you remember that
options.
Process?
I definitely...
Like, is it like a college thing? Like, we took tours and they catered to us, or no?
Not quite like that. You normally do shadowing, so you try to go to the school and you'll get paired up with a student for part of the day. You kind of follow them around to class and lunch and see what it's like. And if you're connected to any sport or think you want to play it, you might get introduced to the coaches or anything like that. So it was a little bit like a college recruiting trip, but not exactly. Definitely not as serious as it was. So I did a few of those at a couple of the schools. Walsh, Eds, I distinctly remember. Ignatius, I didn't do a visit there, but my mom actually had some connections to people there, so talked to them about the potential of going there. And it is a little bit hazy to me kind of how everything happened. My parents were not the type that would have told me, like, you're going to go to school here. So I must have made a decision at some point that it was going to be Eds, but it was pretty late. Like, I know we were into the summer already between 8th grade and 9th grade.
Oh, going into high school.
And then, what I remember is, like, all of a sudden I was at football camp at Eds going into freshman year in August sometime.
Wow.
So I came in pretty late. Could have played soccer or football. Ultimately chose to play football. Because I then started doing that in middle school as well.
Okay. Wait, you initially chose to play football at Eds?
I did play football my freshman year at Eds.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So freshman year I played football.
Okay.
I wrestled and I played baseball.
Wow.
And it was a lot.
Yeah, especially a program like that. So really quick, because you're bringing back memories. I'll be honest, I haven't thought about this for a long time, 20, 30 years almost, is when I was...
It's crazy that it's been that long.
It has. and
doesn't seem like it.
It makes me wonder how my life would have been different if this path would have went that way. Like we talked about different paths we take is...
Yeah.
I remember somebody along the lines essentially talking to my parents about how I excelled at football. And I was always big for my age until I stopped growing in like 8th or 9th grade, like both of us did. But I was big, I dominated the field, and there was people that were like, hey, he should attend Iggy or Ed's, and I had that opportunity, and I remember we, like my family sitting there trying to weigh that cost, and there's just no way we could. But to think about, like just me recalling that, like that opportunity was presented to me, I guess which shows how similar we are in mindset, athleticism, very, very disciplined people, and like how sports are just so crucial in like forming people from when we were in 6th grade all the way to where we are now. You know, we're still involved as much as we can. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's crazy to think about how impactful that was at such a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sports in general, but specifically wrestling, you know, I look back and count numerous ways that it's impacted my life and lessons that I still draw on a daily, at least weekly basis today. So
do you draw on that to like in fatherhood too?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do, or I think it kind of has defined who I've become as a father.
Sure.
And some of the qualities that I want to instill in my children.
Sure. Okay.
Again, specifically lessons that I've learned through wrestling. But you know, I think you can draw those from multiple sports, especially when you do it at a high level or a serious level and you take the athletics serious.
Yeah. I draw a lot, you know, obviously, you know, I have a daughter due in March, and I always wonder, because I'm not there yet, Like, dude, when I'm in a tough time at work, or just, we're dealing with a tough time at home, or just anything family oriented, I could essentially resonate with like an old situation and kind of use that and go, okay, like that's a comparable in my head. I could get through this because of that. And so I hope and I pray it like happens in fatherhood too. It's like I could relay that message, even though they haven't lived, like running through that fucking sprint line means just finishing the job, finishing what you have to do. Don't give up, So I guess it's really cool to just have you implement that with the boys right now as much as you can.
Yeah.
And as much as they conceptualize it, I guess,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's doing it at an age appropriate level and continuing to instill those lessons in them consistently over time in a way that makes sense for them at 4 years old, like my oldest is, or even 18 months old, like my younger one is. And then when they're 5 and 8, and when they're 8 and 11, and when they're 18 and 15, it will be different how I instill those lessons that I've learned in them. Because if you can accelerate those things, I think everybody, you would agree, like you've gone through things in your life. You did an episode about the challenges that you face and how you've learned from them, and so I think everyone's going to have that.
Yeah.
But if I can accelerate it for the boys by letting them learn some of the lessons that I did.
Like learn through your failures.
Yeah, or through the challenges that I've faced and overcome, then maybe I cut down on the number of things that they had to struggle through.
Dude,
or at least
true.
Cut down on the intensity of that struggle. They're still going to have their own struggles.
And you want them to.
Everyone's going to.
Yeah.
But if I can instill in them some tools to better deal with the challenges that they face,
Yeah.
and be able to learn even more from them than they otherwise would have, then that's ultimately the goal.
Yep. Yeah.
And my parents often said, like, our goal as parents is to put you in a better position than we were.
Yes.
And that's not to say that they were put in a bad position, but that's lessons that they learned from their parents, my grandparents. And like, if you just keep doing that generation over generation and stacking that up, I think that's how you can really build success within a family, amongst generations, is by continuing to learn from and instill the values that you've been able to develop through your life into them, and then again allow them to grow from that in a quicker, better way than maybe you were able to.
Yeah. And you said something and you keep saying it, and it's crazy. I've thought about this for a long time, and I've repeated it on my videos, is stacking wins, right? If you can continue to stack wins, it's at the end of the day, it's little shots of dopamine, it's little shots of confidence, right? And it puts you in a position to continue to win. And you keep saying that, it's like from generation to generation, if your generation, the previous generation just stacks a couple wins, and you got some failures in there, and then you teach them and they learn from all that before they even put their hand to the fire. It's like, hey, don't touch that, it's hot, and they actually listen to you. Dude, they're already ahead of the curve than you touching that fire in the past generation, you know? And that's just really cool that you've said stacking so much and you didn't recognize it, but that's one of my big sayings is like, dude, you just got to stack wins. And that's going to build so much confidence for anything you do. You could power through a lot. So, all right, so I feel like we could go down that rabbit hole, and we're not there yet. I don't want to jump ahead. You're playing football, you're wrestling, and then what else were you doing?
I played baseball my
Okay, so
year.
where is it, like, fuck everything else, wrestling's my life? Like, how does that happen?
So with football, I would say that was an easier decision, just because
The weight cut?
the weight cut.
Yeah, that's what I did. I chose football.
Yeah.
And my weight cut, I led football more, so yeah.
Yeah, so I played a linebacker position like you did.
Yeah.
And, as a freshman, I was maybe at my heaviest, like 155, 160.
Yeah.
And these other guys that are on the freshman team with me are 200 pounds and 6 foot tall as freshmen.
In high school, guys.
So I'm like,
That's St. Ed's for you.
physics is like not on my side,
I think you guys won
this?
national title when you were there, right?
Wrestling, not football.
Yeah.
But the football team
was
definitely
like
improved. since I've
nationally
been there.
ranked.
So just from a weight cut perspective, and like I said, I started playing football competitively in 7th grade. I played 7th and 8th grade. And, I liked watching football, paying attention to it, but it wasn't necessarily like a love of mine, maybe like it was of yours.
Sure.
So it was easier for me to step aside from that, especially with the weight component being a part of it. Where, like I said, baseball for me growing up, that was like my sport.
Yeah.
Like if you,
You're built really well for a baseball player.
yeah, I mean, if I would
Did you
have
play shortstop or center field?
So I pitched, and
Get the fuck
and
out
I
of here,
played third.
did you?
And I played third base
Really?
primarily. Yeah,
That's crazy. So you were like a big kid for a while.
I never was. I was always pretty average, I would
Really?
say, in terms of like height and weight.
Yeah.
I felt like I was always in the middle.
Yeah.
And that played out through high school. And
Okay.
again, at baseball, I was able to be competitive enough to make the team and play, but the other pitchers were 6 foot tall, and so
Sure.
leverage wise, so I closed
Okay.
even as a freshman, and now I'm like that. That's such an awesome position. I understand the game even better.
Which is crazy to think about. When you're younger and they send you in at the end, you're like, man, I suck.
Yeah, at 14-year-old, I just sat here, and
Yeah.
maybe I'll get to play if like the situation dictates.
But a closer's a big deal, dude.
And then we had a good kid that played like my position at third base, so like I didn't get an opportunity to play the field that much. So it was like pretty much I was either closing or didn't really have a spot to go.
Yeah.
So while I still really loved baseball, I realized that if I really wanted to be good at a sport, I was going to have to focus.
Yep.
And I was fairly successful in wrestling that freshman year. And so I kind of knew that was going to be my best bet. And
Did you wrestle varsity your freshman year, or it was like, that's like a not possible thing there?
It is possible there for sure. People do it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Eds is, so I wrestled on what would be called our green team. So
Okay.
it's a varsity level team.
Yeah.
But it's not the starting varsity team.
So who would you wrestle? Do other private schools have green teams?
When we were in high school, there was a few other schools that had it.
Yeah.
But it was fairly uncommon. I would say is probably even more uncommon now.
Sure.
But occasionally
Just
you'll
less
see
kids doing sports.
And so, I mean, you could call it a JV team if you want, but we wrestled against other varsity level competition. And
For
so
sure, and probably beat them.
we had gold. That's our starters. And they would wrestle kind of the national slate.
Yeah.
So Walsh,
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, has the premier wrestling tournament in the country for high school called the Ironman.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
a start of season tournament in December.
Yeah. Is this still going on?
It's still going on.
So
Brings in schools from California to Texas to Wisconsin and Alaska. Everybody that's noteworthy from a school level or an individual level
How many
is probably
teams?
at Ironman.
how many teams?
That's hard to say. Like full teams there, they're probably up into like the 30s, maybe even 40 full teams. But you might have a school. Brunswick was actually this way. A kid that I grew up with.
Like you qualify for it, right? Wasn't it like that?
No, you can just attend.
Yeah, but it was private, or was it not?
It's not all private. No, public schools.
No, what I'm saying is like, you're not sending like you said, a school team there.
You could. They could elect to do that.
Oh,
It's
really?
just The coaching staff at different schools
Yeah.
have different philosophies. So some schools,
Yeah.
if they had enough guys that they felt could compete there, may send their whole team, and maybe half the team gets knocked out after 2 matches and in pretty sound fashion.
Yeah, sure.
You had other teams, Brunswick being one of them. I was saying a friend of mine growing up who ended up being a multiple-time state champ for Brunswick. He would
Who
go.
was that?
Richie Speisel.
Okay. Where'd he go to college?
He went to a school called Gardner Webb for a few years
To wrestle?
to wrestle.
Really?
Yeah.
He didn't go D1?
It is a D1 school.
It is?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I would never even.
I think it's
never
in one of the Carolinas.
He won state titles out of Brunswick.
2-time state champ from Brunswick. So
And I've never heard of the school he went to. That's crazy.
he would go.
Okay.
And then they might have another kid or two that they felt may be able to compete.
Mm-hmm.
And they would send them, but they wouldn't send their whole team.
Sure.
And you have a lot of schools that do that.
Okay.
So it's hard to like put a number on teams that are there.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah,
if
yeah.
you count those as teams, the numbers.
I mean, there's individuals,
bigger.
like you said, are going there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but you do have.
So you
teams
went there
coming out of
freshman year.
Texas.
You did pretty well.
So yeah, at Ed's, I was on what is our green team. So you have gold,
Yep.
which is like the team that would go to Ironman, and they're our starters. They're the team that ultimately will wrestle in the state tournament at the end of the year. And then we had our green team, which is our second varsity team. And so we would wrestle a lot of in-state competition that wasn't necessarily like the Ironman tournament or whatever, but we would go to big tournaments. We would see other varsity teams. We would go to dual tournaments and go up against other school starters. And so you were getting varsity level competition, even though you weren't able to be the starter at Ed's. And I would say when I was there, I mean, we probably had a good 60 or plus kids.
Holy shit, on the team?
Yeah, so we had enough that you could fill a gold varsity team, a green. We actually had 3 varsities.
I was
we
going
had
to say.
gold, green, and white varsity,
Okay.
then JV, then freshman. So we had 5 wrestling teams when I was there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I was a green team guy, was behind some very good guys. And that's another thing. So like in middle school, like I told you, I started off and I was winning pretty regularly at middle school. And then I got to Ed's and it was another step up in competition.
You're around a bunch of good guys.
I mean,
Which
the
is
best
gonna-
guys. The competition that was in our room is, I mean, you got guys that are going D1
National champs.
across the board.
Yeah, Iowa, Ohio State.
So I'm getting to wrestle those guys in the room, help me get better, and then still being able to compete at a varsity level on the green team. And so seeing that through my freshman year, the big thing with baseball was that baseball is obviously a spring sport.
Yep.
And the off-season wrestling is spring. So after regular season, which is
January, February it ends.
I think the beginning of March is the state tournament, or was the state tournament. It's shifted a little bit over time, but for us, it ended beginning of March. And then usually in April, it would pick up the off-season wrestling. And during season, you wrestle collegiate or what's called folk style wrestling.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Wow, yeah.
And then in the off season, you would wrestle freestyle and Greco, which is what most of the rest of the world wrestles. That's what you would see in the Olympics, is those 2 styles. And so you would do that basically starting in April, and then that would culminate with nationals in July in Fargo. And so you would spend that whole time. Well, if I was playing baseball, I couldn't really do that. And so that was another way that I knew if I wanted to get to where I ultimately wanted to be with wrestling, I needed to be doing that off-season stuff to continue to get better throughout the year. So once I transitioned to just wrestling in my sophomore year of high school, I would start, preseason workouts sometime probably in September. Season would actually get going with practice and stuff, usually in October sometime. And then we would start competing in either late November, beginning of December. And then the season would run through the beginning of March. Usually take about a month off and then get into the off-season stuff. And then that would run, like I said, from April to about the end of July, which is when Fargo is. And then you would essentially have August off, and you'd come back in September, and you'd start...
Repeat. Wash and repeat.
You'd start off-season stuff for wrestling.
So did you start your junior or sophomore, junior, senior year? How did those pan out, or did you continually grow?
So
did you make the gold team?
So eventually
Obviously
I did.
you did, but
my senior year was my first year on gold.
Your what? Repeat that again?
My senior year would have been my first year as the starter, like the primary starter on gold.
That's crazy to think. Your fucking talent, and I know you, was so good, but you had to wait till your senior year to have a spot. In anybody who doesn't know wrestling, whatever weight class you are, there's one fucking guy. So it's not like me playing football. Oh, Dale, you're not going to start inside linebacker, but you could probably try out for fullback, or you got an opportunity to bump over to outside linebacker or safety, or hell, you could rotate throughout the game with another linebacker. It's either you or nobody. So the competition is just it's black and white. It literally is. There's
so there's really no
unless that guy
opportunity.
gets hurt or he can't make weight.
Yeah. Or sometimes, like if you had what's called a tri match, where maybe there's two other schools coming and you're going to wrestle both of them, or a quad, which is you're going to have your school and three
other
others.
schools. Yeah.
So maybe like the starter would wrestle 2 out of the 3, and you'd get 1.
Yeah.
So that presented some opportunity to wrestle as like this in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like I had guys, my teammates, multiple time state champions at my weight, at the weight below me.
What weight were you at?
I was primarily 152.
152, okay.
Which is what the weight was at the time. They've shifted weights a little bit.
What's it now, like heavier, obviously?
157, which aligns more with college now. But I was 152. As a freshman, I could cut down to 145, and I occasionally would.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I was 152 all the way through
until senior year. Wow.
I wrestled 152.
Dude, I graduated high school at like 186 pounds.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I was probably walking around at 170, 175.
Because you're not a small guy. I mean, you're pretty thick, you know, in a good way, you know, it's like.
And there was definitely some weight cutting going on in high school.
You don't think?
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, I remember, dude, running around with garbage bags and, dude, everything. I remember, so I remember it was one of those, my weight class, and I'm trying to think, they really wanted me to wrestle, is there 170s?
Yeah, it was 171 at the time.
Okay, so 171, I don't remember who wrestled it because I ended up not wrestling my senior year, but whoever was just dialed in. They were good. And so it was either I had to cut a lot of weight or I had to jump up a weight class. And the crazy thing was, both of those weight classes were easier for me to start, if that makes sense, than the weight class at my natural weight.
Yeah.
And so I hated cutting all that because of football was the issue. And so a lot of times I would wrestle 10, 15 pounds lighter than the guys that I would wrestle, simply because that was the only opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, for you, when we were there, it would have been 60, then 71, then 89.
Yeah.
So those would have been your options.
And that was a big jump. You're going down or up a lot. And I do remember Maple Heights had a pretty good tournament every year. I don't know if you guys ever wrestled that.
I don't know if we were in that tournament, but we'd see the Maple Heights guys time to time.
And, dude, they threw me in with like the 180s or something. I took like second. And it was like a big fucking deal because it was just like, Dale, just get out there and, you know, we have nobody to fill it. You're going to fill this. And, dude, I remember it was the final match and he ended up pinning me and I couldn't get him off me. And it was first and second. I took second. But, dude, it was like highlight of my wrestling career where I was like, dude, I was pretty decent, you know. And I probably could have excelled more if I would have chose it, right? Like if that was my thing. But, yeah, senior year I didn't wrestle, and that's okay, you know. I don't regret it. I like what I did, and I still met you.
Yeah.
Somehow along the line.
Yeah.
Did you guys wrestle? Because Garfield Heights and Maple Heights had a big history growing up of wrestling. Did you guys wrestle Garfield Heights at all? My high school, like in anything, tournaments, or?
It's possible. I can't remember all the schools that we would have saw at various tournaments. You know, I know that we would have saw Maple Heights on occasion at some things. You know, and they had a bit of a history back from the 80s and the 90s. They were a pretty good wrestling school.
Yeah,
and they would
do you remember the names?
Still drawing some guys, not the historic names that would have made them kind of a program back in the day. And I don't even know that I could give you any names of the guys that were still kind of state level competitors at the time.
Yeah.
But I know that they did have some guys, yeah.
So my buddy Danny, his brother-in-law, is one of those last names, and I can't remember, but he went through that program at Maple Heights back in the day. So he's probably, dude, I'd say 8 or 10 years older than us.
Okay.
And it was like their prime time. They go back like you do to Maple Heights, and like that program, they still try to keep it up and afloat, and they try to contribute where I know for a fact guys don't go back to Garfield. Like that Maple Heights program, I mean, obviously it wasn't like St. Ed's, but I know that world that they lived in was very similar in terms of like generational, like this is where you're going to fucking go and this is what you're going to do, you know?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that more, about how St. Ed's essentially passes on that and that's why you guys are good. And I think that's amazing. So what was your, I guess, because I feel like we could talk about wrestling forever,
Yeah.
and we only have so much time.
Right.
I guess, what was your main takeaway in high school of wrestling in general? What was the best achievement you had as well? So like takeaway, achievement, and then how the hell did you get to Heidelberg?
So, takeaway is something that's taken a lot of reflection after leaving high school, and even, today, looking back, sometimes kind of can still learn things from those experiences, even though they were so long ago.
Sure.
And I think with wrestling in general, it's just like, look, you got to work hard in order to compete at a high level and to achieve things at a high level. And you're going to go through a lot of ups and downs. You're going to go through a lot of hard times. But if you stay focused and continue to work hard, lean on those people that you need to for help, that ultimately persevering in a way is success in itself.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
That even if you don't ultimately achieve the goal that you set out for, that there's something that you could take away from having known that at the end you did everything that you could to have gotten to where you got.
Yeah.
And that you could find achievement in that.
Yeah.
And so that's a lesson that I take away from wrestling in general, kind of at all levels which I've done it.
Yeah.
But certainly at Ed's. And, that was something that when you're a part of that program, and probably part of any program, you have certain goals in mind, and in our room around the walls are all the brackets of all the state champs. And so every day you're in there looking at these things.
Sure.
And so that becomes a goal for a lot of people that at least, aspire to be a starter and really compete, which I think is most people that go through that program and probably go through most programs. And so that, of course, was a goal of mine. And remember being in there after practice, doing extra work, whatever, looking at those brackets and thinking, that's what I want someday, to be on this wall. And then, so like I said, my senior year was my opportunity to start.
Yep.
And did so, and had to go through a lot of ups and downs. I know the holiday tournament, Christmas and New Year's time is usually a big time for tournaments.
Yep.
And that was like one of my worst tournaments in probably my wrestling career, definitely in high school. Just like underperformed. And I remember my coach at the time, because it was a big jump for me, or at least I felt like it was, going from being on green to gold. And then you started feeling the pressure, you started feeling kind of the weight of the competition.
Things are moving faster.
And all those types of things. And starting that year, there were times where I would lose a close match. And maybe subconsciously I was kind of okay with that. Like I was wrestling not to lose.
Yeah.
Or not to lose big,
Yeah.
rather than wrestling to win. And I remember
Sure.
my coach saying, like, I don't care if you lose by 1 or if you lose by 10. It's still a loss.
Yeah,
Like, start
100%.
Start wrestling to win,
Yeah.
and things are going to go better for you. And it took a while for that message to sink in, and I think it was ultimately the challenges that I faced and having to go through that underperformance at that tournament to realize, like, I'm just going to like leave it all out there from now on and stop worrying so much about, well, how's it going to look if I lose this way or that way? Like, just start wrestling to win. And so that's what I started to do. And it's crazy how much sometimes athletics, and particularly wrestling, being my experience, is a mental sport. And
Sure.
just flipping that mental switch made all the difference in the world from a competitive standpoint. And from that tournament until the state tournament, I didn't lose
No shit.
a match.
How many did you go?
I don't remember how many matches.
Was it 5? Was it 6?
But I could tell you that part of the schedule and the competition I faced there was much tougher than the first part.
So the second half was better, and you went undefeated on the second half.
Up until the state tournament. So unfortunately, a week before sectionals, my senior year, I tore my ACL in my left leg. Tore my ACL, tore my meniscus.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And so.
Was it during practice or during a match?
During practice.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
And actually, they thought that I didn't at first, and then come to find out later that when that happens, your hamstrings will compensate for it and tighten up so much that it will give stability. So when the athletic trainer checked it, he didn't feel the looseness.
Yep.
And then the next day he did, sent me to a doctor, and the doctor checked it. And I remember the first thing out of the doctor's mouth was, "Well, I guess you're done." And I said, "No."
Wow.
I said,
that crushed your soul, didn't it?
Figure out how to make this happen, because I didn't just spend the last 4 years getting to this point to not try to see this through.
Yeah.
So, what's the options?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, we could, brace it, but, it's not going to feel good.
Yeah.
And I said, well, could it get worse? And he said, basically, no. It's torn. It can't tear more. Chances of you tearing another ligament, probably are a little bit higher, but it's not significant.
It's torn right now. It's just
once the rubber band's broke, you can't break the rubber band again in that same spot. It's gone. So we can brace it, and if you can endure it, then you can try to wrestle on it. So kind of seeing how things kind of work out in a funny way sometimes, and maybe God has a plan for you and put you in certain situations that at the time you don't realize. So I stopped playing baseball so I can do the off-season stuff, the Greco and the freestyle. Well, Greco is all upper body, so there's no leg attacks. It's all throws, it's headlocks, it's all stuff like that. So I got really good at that kind of stuff, and that was kind of my main style
on that end
in the off-season. So when I tore my ACL, I couldn't really shoot anymore. I didn't really have the ability to push off my leg, because when I did, my knee would kind of separate, even with the brace on. And so I relied heavily on my short offense headlocks and stuff like that. And I pretty much utilized that to get me through the state tournament, sectionals, districts, and states. And that was kind of my main ability to score points, was through utilizing that short offense, which I really developed in the off season, because I gave up baseball to be able to do the Greco and the freestyle stuff. And so, and just
like you said, God puts you kind of in that place for things to happen.
And just to talk about the program and the brotherhood and the teammates that I had. So the guy that I wrestled off in my senior year was in the exact same position as me coming up. He and I were green team guys, waiting for our shot.
Waiting for your shot.
And he was always a little bit smaller than me, a lighter weight than me, coming up. So we never really competed directly against each other while we were on that same team. And then, as you do in high school, people hit different growth spurts at different times. And then we just happened to end up being the same weight in our senior year.
Wow.
And so we had to wrestle off against each other. And it was either him or me that was going to end up getting that spot. And then we had another teammate of mine. So he graduated the same year as me, and this other kid who was a starter our junior year went to states, and then
at that weight class,
senior year, just because as weight shifted around, wasn't the starter anymore. He got some starting time, but when it came time for the state tournament, he wasn't the start. He wasn't going to get to go to states his senior.
Was he wrestling the same weight as you?
No. The first guy I talked about.
Sure.
Was.
Yes.
The second guy was a smaller guy.
Okay.
But even though he had a starting spot the year before, because different people had moved to different weights,
one man.
He lost his starting spot. So even though he went to states as a junior, he didn't have the opportunity as a senior.
Yeah.
And these two guys that could have said well, it's my senior year, and I don't get to go to states, so
I'm not wrestling.
F this.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm done.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes. These two guys every day just worked with me, because I essentially had to have my own practice, because I couldn't do the stuff the other guys were doing because of my leg.
Couldn't they have now? I hate to shit on your parade, but could they have done a wrestle off and taken your spot, or was it kind of you earned it, it's yours for the season? Do you know what I'm saying?
I guess they could have, but I think they took the latter approach of we're not going to take it away from you.
Really? Wow.
Because of your injury. If I would have came in and said, look,
that's respect, man.
I can't wrestle, so give it to the other guy. But they kind of let me make that decision, and then honored it.
Wow.
And because
wow,
I
dude,
had
that's
been the
awesome.
consistent starter for that year.
Did those guys go on to
yeah.
Collegiate Wrestle?
They did, yeah, both of them. Both of them wrestled for John Carroll.
Did you beat him in college?
I never wrestled either of them in college.
Really?
Well, the one guy was smaller at the time. He's probably bigger than us now.
Really?
He shot up still even in college. Yeah.
He hit a growth spurt in college?
Yeah, or like
That's crazy.
or filled out more.
Sure.
And then the other guy, I think, ended up being a little bit lighter. Ended up going down to like 145 or one something in the 140s in college. So we never crossed paths. I never had to wrestle any of my teammates even though several of them went to Carroll and some of the other OAC schools, but I never had to compete against any of those guys.
Oh, wow. That's
at the
crazy.
collegiate level.
Yeah.
But just, and I still think about this, like, what unselfish brotherhood behavior, like to
100%.
to come in there
every day
and just try to help me get ready to compete and to get over like this.
And I'm assuming you're still friends with those guys today.
Yeah, I mean, my teammate, especially in wrestling, but I know you experienced it in football. Like, you just form a different bond with those people because you're going through hell a lot of times together.
Yep.
And when you got to go through hell with guys and you know that they have gone through the same thing that you've gone through and experienced those same things and overcome the same things, and you've had to lean on them like I did those guys or them on you in other experiences, it just forms a different bond than you have in other situations.
Sure. Yeah.
So even though we might not see each other for a long period of time or we're not going out on the weekends, I see them at events for the school or wrestling and
didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Wow. So senior year, what'd you place?
So that's really cool. So I ended up wrestling through sectionals, and my coach at the time kind of put a game plan together where I would essentially wrestle through the tournament to the point where I'd advance to the next round. So sectionals, district states.
Yep.
And so luckily enough, each time I was able to make the finals, and then I wouldn't wrestle in the finals.
Okay.
And then same thing in districts. And then so state, it was like, all right, this is it. We're going for it. And actually I ended up spraining my other knee in the second round at state. And so then I had kind of no legs, but was still able to win another match or two in place. But then right after season had reconstructive surgery on.
Oh, you did?
On my knee. And it was about a 9-month.
So what'd you place?
So I placed 8th.
You placed 8th with no legs?
No legs.
Can you fucking imagine if you had legs? That's crazy.
You never know. I mean, it could have gone differently. Maybe I would have been.
I probably would have never met you.
More aggressive.
You might have not went to Heidelberg.
Maybe not.
If you would have placed higher.
Maybe not.
You would have got an undergrad and a graduate.
Yeah. Sometimes it's
dude.
It's.
No, I know. That's.
Like we said earlier, like sometimes, God's got a plan and
100%.
It's not yours. And had things gone differently, maybe I would have gone somewhere else.
Wow.
Maybe I wouldn't have met you. Maybe I wouldn't have met my wife. I don't have my boys.
Yeah, that's true because you met her at Heidelberg.
So
he had a plan, dude.
Who knows how things change if that doesn't happen? And in the moment, you can't know that.
You're not thinking about it. You're not thinking 10 years ahead.
All I'm thinking about is like, I just spent 4 years and now it's all being taken away.
Sure.
And luckily I had support of my family, my teammates, and my coaches, particularly the one coach. I remember sitting in the training room. This is right after I think the doctor had told me, like, you can't wrestle.
Yeah.
This. And he comes in and says, basically, look, you've been working hard for this. You're going to wrestle. It's going to suck. You're just going to have to accept that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to allow you to not, because if you don't do it, maybe you don't have to go through the hardship and the pain or whatever that's going to come with this, but you're going to look back on it one day and you're going to have regrets.
Yep.
And that's going to be a lot worse for you than whatever you have to deal with for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So luckily I had people and mentors in my life that, like we were talking about earlier, that I try to do with my boys now, that had been through things in the past and kind of could provide that perspective that I just couldn't have at that time.
Sure. Wow. So you take eighth, senior year. Throughout this process, were you getting recruited? I mean, how did you get to Heidelberg?
Yeah, so I was starting sometime at my senior year. Started, getting the letters, having coaches show up to tournaments and try to talk to you between matches or after
Sitting
the
in the
tournaments.
stands, taking notes. I remember those days.
So, in particular, I remember the coaches at the time, Brandon Brissett. I don't know if you remember that name, Jake Percival, Miller showing up at a few things and starting to build a relationship with those guys.
Miller showed up?
So I don't know if Miller was at a tournament, but I remember talking to him on the phone.
Yeah.
And Brissett in particular, I remember seeing at tournaments, and Percival, the GA at the time, who was a national finalist from Ohio University.
I remember that name.
Yeah, yeah, phenomenal wrestler. And so started to build a relationship with them at those tournaments. And then after season is kind of when you really start the process of going to see schools and visit places and get a sense of the program and the school and stuff like that. So after the season was over and I had my knee done, I couldn't wrestle in the freestyle Greco part of it like I was talking about. And so that kind of freed up even additional time for me to go visit schools and try to figure out where I wanted to go, because I knew I still wanted to wrestle even though that had happened.
Yeah.
I think in large part because that had happened. I
had to prove something.
I don't know that I even felt like I got to prove something.
Yeah.
But it's like I got more to do.
Yeah.
And I still
That's funny you say that.
love the
more
sport.
To do, right? Because I don't know. It's like there's a switch that's not turned off yet, if that makes sense. And when I left college and I was done playing football, I shut that switch off. Like, I am not heavily involved in watching football. I'm not heavily involved in following college sports. And in my eyes, I gave it everything I had when I was there. That switch was on the entire time. But then when I left, it was all right, the switch is off, and I remember in my head, maybe 6 months after a year, I was like, dude, I'm probably the biggest and best I've been in shape, because post college, you could, I got a job and I could afford to eat better. And I was like, dude, if I ate like this and trained and didn't drink as much, maybe I could do a semi-pro thing. Maybe I could do a tryout. You start getting all these things, and then the switch turned off. So for you to say I had more to do, that's a reality. That's a mental thing where it's either on or it's off.
Yeah.
And the guys that shut it off, they're done.
Was definitely still in it, definitely still wanted to compete, still love that aspect of it. And so I always knew that I wanted to continue my career at the collegiate level.
Yeah. So what made you choose Heidelberg right there?
So yeah,
because we didn't pay you. I'll tell you that. We didn't get paid.
No,
there was no nil deals.
Went to a lot of different places, kind of all over the place, different divisions, and ultimately, what set Heidelberg apart from the other places was the sense of community that was there, not just amongst the wrestling team. That was certainly present, but amongst the school in general.
Okay.
It felt very kind of a family environment there.
Yeah.
Yeah, homie. And actually, a good story that I told at commencement was when I came on my recruiting trip there, I remember driving out with my parents and pulling in the parking lot and having the thought, I might have even told my parents, this is a waste of time. I just drove through a field for the last 2 hours.
Dude, that's crazy. I remember that.
I'm a kid from a Cleveland suburb, where there's stuff
this isn't what we
going
grew up
on, and I have seen nothing other than corn and whatever else is growing out here for the last 2 hours.
Yeah, right.
And then these castle-looking buildings just popped up out of nowhere, and so I was like, well, I'll just go through this visit and we'll
get it over with.
We'll move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And then over the course of that visit, and then really after that, just the constant contact by the coaching staff.
Yeah, they had a really good recruiting team, dude.
Yeah, especially at
our
that time
years,
when I was
man, were prime Heidelberg.
And just they were other places where this is kind of what we have to offer.
Yeah.
From an academic standpoint, from a wrestling standpoint, from a social standpoint, from a career development standpoint, whatever it is. Like, this is kind of what we got, and if you want to be a part of it, great. Where like Heidelberg really seemed to go above and beyond of like, we really want you to be a part of our community here, and like, what can we do to make you feel more comfortable here?
Sure.
And I felt that from the coaching staff. It's probably, I think, the only school other than one other place where like the professors at the school were reaching out.
Wow.
And they're like, I heard you want to be a political science major. You might have an interest in law. We had a professor, Rita Barga, who was a lawyer, and then taught like legal-based business and political science classes. She called me and was talking to me about like, well, what do you want to do? Why do you think you want to be a lawyer? And so like, I really felt like they wanted me to be there. And
was your GPA high in high school?
Yeah, I've always been strong academically. So I had a good GPA coming out of high school. I had fairly good test scores.
What was your ACT?
I think it was a 29.
Oh, it was? Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't exactly remember, but that sounds right.
Well, remember, the higher we tested, the better financing we got. So
so I mean, that helped out. Like you said, you're not getting paid at the D3 level to come play sports.
No, but it's like the higher we tested, we could get.
Yeah, you could get something academically, and like they helped out. That helped out for sure. But it just was a place that I felt kind of at home at. Yeah. And turned out to be right. And I mean, because you went there, we had a lot of people that would come in freshman year and they're gone. They're gone by the end of the first semester. Literally. But for those of us that stayed there, like, it was really a good fit for us, and it was definitely a different type of college experience than you had. Like, I would go down to Ohio State a lot because I had cousins that went there for undergrad, and it was very different than that, both in terms of size, but being in a city versus where we were.
You're a number at those big schools. You're a person at ours.
And so it's different in that way, and like, we found a way to kind of have our own fun that like you probably couldn't have at Ohio State. I remember like going to baseball games with the trucks out in the outfield and like putting couches in the back, and like,
small school field, dude.
Yeah, you're not doing that down at Ohio State.
Putting couches. I mean, I remember you guys would put couches in the end zone for football games. Yeah. Or at the end of it, like, and did they allow it? Unless it was when I went back, but do they allow like drinking, like on the football field, down at the end zones?
I can't remember if that was happening at all, or at least if it was sanctioned or not. It was probably almost certainly happening.
For sure.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was like something that was kind of done.
You're making me miss this place, dude.
In secret or not.
Yeah.
So I really loved the college experience there. Like I said, I had cousins that went to Ohio State, so anytime I was like, I want to get the big school feel for the weekend, we'd go down there and spend time at the big school doing those types of things. But Heidelberg was really home for 4 years, and I loved being there. I missed being there. I still like getting back and still being in contact with the coaches, the professors. If I'm in proximity of Heidelberg, like, I'm like, well, I'm close enough that I'm going to go, and I'll call them up or text them and tell them, hey, I'm within a half an hour, so might as well stop by. Yeah. And they'll still go out of their way to make time to see me and catch up. So for all those reasons, like, it ended up being the right choice. And again, just God put me in the right positions at the right time, took me to Ed's, took me to Heidelberg, even though my thought was, this is a waste of my time.
Dude, I did a stint, I did an overnight at John Carroll, and dude, I hated it. I didn't feel like I fit in. These kids were spending more money than I ever seen in partying, and it was like everybody had money, and I just didn't have that growing up. And my thought was, dude, I can't fit in here. Like, they're not going to accept me. And going to Heidelberg on those visits, it was middle class America, and we all kind of grew up the same way, through the meat grinder, and dealt with all these problems, and this was kind of our solitude of like, we all can do this together, and so that's kind of what drove me there, and that's how I fit in. So
yeah, it was a good sense of community, and like, we played different sports or whatever, but if you and I would have passed each other on a sidewalk, it's like, I don't know. It's not that I didn't know who you were. Like, everybody kind of knew each other. Yep. And even though you obviously had your different friend groups,
Yep.
you know, at Heidelberg, like I felt like everyone got along.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, for the most part.
For the most part, yeah, for sure. I wasn't a fan of the soccer guys. Fucking hated a lot of them, dude. I fucking hated
I feel
a
like
lot
there
of
was always a rivalry. I know baseball didn't really like us all that much.
Yeah, dude, for sure. Yeah.
But, you know, like Jerry lived with 2 baseball guys, so it wasn't like
love Jerry.
across the board.
Yeah, shout out to Jerry.
Yeah, for sure.
What's it?
Great guy.
Well, Jerry's. What is it? What's the auto place?
Madison.
We gotta give him.
Madison Auto and Towing, I think is the full name of it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
guys,
they're
if
out
you're in Lakewood,
and they got another place out in Olmsted Falls.
yeah, Olmsted Falls and Lakewood, go check out Jerry. He took over his dad's business, grew it, blew it up. The dude's awesome. He went through a. He also went through a. What was that pipeline for business?
He's in BNI?
No, it wasn't
talking about?
BNI. It was. He actually asked me if I wanted to get involved. It was like an accelerated college prep of like not J.P. Morgan Chase, but one of the big banks. They teach you a bunch of stuff how to run your business. Do you know?
Okay. No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't know
I was
that?
part of that, no.
Oh yeah. So check out Jerry Knapp. Dude owns an awesome business. Mutual friends.
Yeah, great guy.
Great guy. All right, so we got the Heidelberg. Hang tight. Now we're going to get essentially through the Heidelberg life. I guess how you grew from that. Hopefully it's not as long as everything else, because we're going to be here for 4 hours and we both got jobs. And yeah, so stay tuned.
All right.
All right, guys, we're back. Now we're going to talk about essentially how you got through Heidelberg, and we're about 1:15 into this, just to give you a heads up on how much.
Hour and 15, not a minute.
Or an hour and 15, yeah. So, geez. I guess walk me through Heidelberg, just freshman, sophomore, junior year. You don't have to super fast forward through it, but just kind of take us through that path really quick, and then how you got to the big thing is getting your first job out of college.
Okay. So, yeah.
Or not even first job out of college. Law school. Because I know that's a cool story. And the whole turnaround with the car. And you getting that call.
Yeah.
So
Getting to Ohio State. So Heidelberg was great, as we've been talking about. You know, met Natalie there, my wife, and had a great experience. I was a political science major, did a lot of business classes while I was at Heidelberg. I would guess technically a legal studies track or minor while I was there. So even from high school, knew that I wanted to go to law school. Or thought,
you did?
Thought that I wanted to go to law school.
Okay.
I don't have any attorneys in my family, none that were super close. We had like a kind of a family friend that I knew through my grandparents more than anything else that was an attorney, but that was really my closest exposure to any. But I did have people along the way kind of tell me that a law degree is a useful and versatile degree, so even if you don't want to be an attorney, you could use that for something else. So that kind of was something that I was interested in. I always like history and political science and those type of thing, and so I felt like that meshed well with law.
Okay.
And so that kind of is what put me on the track. So senior year at Heidelberg,
Yep.
you know, unfortunately, about a month before we graduated, my father passed away from cancer. And so the plan going through Heidelberg was senior year, start looking at law schools, and then go to law school coming out of Heidelberg. My dad, I didn't know this till much later. I'm probably 5 to 10 years maybe after he passed, but when he got diagnosed, the doctors basically said, you got 8 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and parents never really told me
What
that.
kind of cancer?
Melanoma.
Really?
Skin cancer that was
Just so far staged along.
metastasized. I had stage 4 melanoma.
Was he a guy that wasn't like, I go to the doctor regularly?
He wasn't somebody that I could recall, like, I'm not going to the doctor.
Sure.
He did go to doctors.
But for them to not catch it for so long.
Yeah, it wasn't part of...
It's not a routine checkup.
No.
It's not.
No, and it never really thought about it. Wasn't doing, like, the routine skin checks that we do now as a result of that.
All right.
And so my dad was essentially in his career. He was a carpenter mainly by trade, but he could build a house basically by himself.
That's
awesome. So he did all trade work, was great with his hands. And his older brother had moved out to Arizona,
Okay.
and he lived out there with him for a while. And, ultimately, who knows through the course of his life, but working on roofs in Arizona probably didn't help.
Ton of sun.
To the skin cancer.
My wife's family. Dude, her uncle, her mom, her aunt, all of them. In the last, they're older in age now, and they're all getting skin taken off because of all the skin cancer. They spend a lot of time at the lakes in Michigan. And I don't know, it's just weird. We went to the beach, we were young, but younger generations, dude, they fucking lived in the sun. It was a different thing.
Yeah.
And
now that's something so now, because of him and his history, and then me growing up, going to the beach, getting burned all the time. I mean, I'm
fair skin for hair. Just a little bit.
I had a lot of sunburn growing up.
Yeah.
So trying to keep an eye on that, get the skin checks, and just try to do what we can to catch anything if it comes early on, rather than end up in that situation that he did. So, yeah, Dad had cancer given 8 months, ultimately made it about 18 months before he passed, but passed in March of our senior year. And so,
I'm sorry, dude.
I
wish I was closer with you then. Honestly, I mean, just because I wish I could have met him. And that's an honest truth, because, dude, you're a great fucking guy, great dad, and it's Dawson's dad died around that same time.
Yeah.
And I got to meet Dawson's dad once or twice, and I see a lot in him just by meeting his father twice, dude, and I wish I could have, but...
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
And it's for people that did know my father and know me now, or knew me younger and know me now. One of the compliments that I'm always the most proud of is when people tell me either how much like my dad I am.
That's awesome.
Or how proud of me he would have been.
100%.
If he was still here.
100%.
So that always means a lot to me when people that knew him say that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he passed, and knowing he had cancer, and because he, I think, wanted to kind of keep it under wraps, and just the selfless person that he was, he didn't want what he was going through to impact me and my sister going through college
and sports.
Yeah, and so they kept a lot of detail of it from us.
Wow, I didn't know that.
But knowing he had cancer and that things were kind of getting worse, I kind of made the decision that I need to be around. So decided I wasn't going to go directly from Heidelberg to law school and going to take the year off. Well, ultimately that ended up being the right choice because he passed away. And so I took that year after we graduated Heidelberg to be at home, help my family adjust, to help myself adjust. Luckily, having the connection that I did with Ed's, I got to coach there full time, which has been a big impact on me.
And you still get back.
And then and still got to give back, and then went through the process that I would have gone through senior year had all that not been going on, of taking the LSAT, visiting law schools, things like that. And so then that kind of leads up to what you were talking about, is that I was set to go to law school at the University of Indiana, and was literally packed up, ready to go the next day.
1 second, I want to check something. So correct me if I'm wrong. You applied to a couple schools, right?
Yeah.
How many schools?
I can't remember exactly, but probably somewhere in the range of 10.
You applied to 10 schools.
Probably.
And then during that process, do you get accepted into maybe is it a 50%? What are they looking at? I mean, for anybody that wants to take this path, I mean, I think it's important to know, what kind of data are we looking at?
I think they're looking at a lot of the same things that they're looking at when you're coming out of high school into undergrad. They're looking at your GPA. They're really...
What was your GPA, Cory? Don't you fucking lie.
4.0.
4.0.
From Heidelberg.
So if you want a good lawyer, and this guy walks in the courtroom with cauliflower ear, veins in his arm, and tattoos on his fucking...
Those are usually covered in
on
the
a
courtroom.
sleeve. This dude's winning the fucking battle 98% of the time, okay? I mean, he's going to fight for you literally, so go ahead.
Yeah, so that, and then LSAT score, and then they look at other things, what your other involvement were. Did you have a job, or were you doing other types of stuff like that? Organizations you might have been a part of in undergrad.
You weren't part of a fraternity, right?
I was not part of a fraternity.
I didn't think so, yeah.
No, but
Me neither.
I did other things on the academic side, Model United Nations and other simulation stuff like that.
Yeah.
A couple like research-based projects that I think mattered in a law school application.
Did you place in college at all for wrestling?
I was an academic All-American.
All right, so they're also looking at that.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are. I mean,
They're looking at athletic achievement combined with academics.
To maintain a 4.0 while being a collegiate athlete, guys, Division III or not, our programs that we went to were built like a D1. We were just smaller guys, literally. Like, it was just, I remember talking to guys that played D1 football that were friends, and we would, just be talking back and forth, and it's like, hey, what's your daily program look like? Like, what's your daily schedule? It's exactly the same.
Yeah, a lot of times it is. I mean, you might have a different level of athlete that's at a D1 program, but a lot of times, like you said before, like we're not on scholarship.
Yeah.
And some of those guys that might be at D2, D3, not all of them, certainly a lot of them love the game, and that's why they're as successful as they are. But other ones, it's like, look, this is a way for me to get school paid for.
Yeah.
For us, we're doing it because we love doing it.
100%. And I think that shows when you probably went through that interview process or that testing process, and they're reviewing all that, So I don't know. I'm a big believer in sports, and I pray that my daughter does some kind of sports, but it's just all these people that question, are sports the answer? Is it too aggressive? Is it too masculine? It's never too much, right? Like, find a good balance that works for you and your family, but there's nothing wrong with pushing somebody. And we've been pushed, and look where we're at. I mean, I think
it could be a great
there's a great correlation.
If used in the right way.
Yes, 100%.
Unfortunately, I've seen the pressure of sports break people down and send them down a bad path.
Yeah.
But if you utilize it the right way, and there's other things that you can do with that as well, music, art, things like that. But sports can be a great teacher, and has been for me.
Yeah. So
yeah, spent the process putting an application together, taking the LSAT, which is the law school entrance exam.
Okay.
That's a big data point that law schools look at.
What'd you score on that?
I don't exactly.
Yeah, you do.
No, I really don't.
Did you score pretty high though, or no?
I would probably middle of the road. Honestly, okay. I've never been like a great standardized test taker. I was decent.
Yeah.
But like GPA to what you would expect my test score to be, my test scores were never as high as maybe my GPA would make you think they were going to be.
Sure.
But
I'm the same way. Standardized tests, I'm not that good at. But if we hold a conversation, and I could figure it out. I could figure out, a lot of things, and you can too. But yeah.
Yeah. So, but I did well enough. Certainly applied to some schools that I didn't get into, and that was kind of the strategy that was always pitched to me when applying. Was you should apply to schools that you feel like are a reach, but that you are kind of like top tier schools that you would like to go to.
Yeah.
You should apply to some schools you're going to get into.
Okay.
And then you should apply to some schools that are kind of in the middle. And so that's what I was told. Again, not having anybody that had gone through this process to mentor me through it. I just kind of was out there looking at general advice you could find online or through the LSAT class that I took.
Did you reach back out to Heidelberg guys? Like, hey, what should I do? Because you're a year out at this point.
A little bit. I did consult with them, but
like O'Reilly or Bing or
I talked to them.
Yeah.
And I think they put me in contact with some people that had kind of gone through the process, so I did get some insight into that.
Yeah.
Had I known today knew back then what I know today, maybe I would have done things different. I would have been more aggressive in finding people to talk to about it, and that's what I tell people all the time. That whatever the career is, but because I'm in law and get to experience, like if you think you want to be a lawyer, especially if your parents aren't a lawyer or your family member's not a lawyer or somebody that you're close to isn't a lawyer, go out, seek lawyers, seek ones that you do the type of thing you think you are going to want to do. Ask them if you could shadow them or if you can sit down for coffee or lunch or whatever. And most people are going to be willing to do that with you.
Yeah.
And pick their brain about what is the day-to-day like, because oftentimes the perception of a career, and I know this is the case for being an attorney, and what it actually is, what you're going to have to do for 10, 12, maybe more hours a day, are two very different things.
Sure.
And you want to make sure that what the life that you're going to potentially be living is in line with something that you could be happy doing, and not just, oh, this is what I know about it from what I see on TV or what I perceive.
So a lot of people
about this
see this glorified in a courtroom debating. There's a jury, there's a judge, and it's like you're pleading this case and you're defending somebody. Dude, that's very rare. Based on what you tell me, is a lot of things are settled out of court, correct?
Yeah, a lot of things are, and that's why it's important to,
like, behind the scenes, there's a lot going on.
There is a lot, and I tell people all the time, so when I talk to people that aren't attorneys or aren't really connected with it or don't have much experience having to work with attorneys, they'll ask me, so like, how much is your work like Suits, the TV show?
Oh,
and I'm
yeah. Have you watched it all?
Yeah.
So I never have. Is it good?
Yeah, I think it's a good TV show, and it shows like the most exciting parts of being an attorney. But if you made an actual TV show about what it's like being an attorney, you'd be like, why is that guy sat at the computer for the last 5 hours and didn't get?
This is what I'm paying him for.
He didn't even get up.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
the whole season would be one guy sitting at his computer screen, like reading a document and then typing something.
And maybe
up.
like 12 minutes at the end of him.
Yeah,
deliberating and
like that's a TV show. This is what it really is. Do we do some of that stuff? Is that what attorneys do? Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But they're not showing you the hours or the days or the weeks of prep that it actually takes. What they're showing you is this guy goes from like closing this multi-million-dollar transaction, and later that afternoon he's in this trial winning this case. That's not really happening.
Yeah.
But that's what you need to sell a TV show. And so somebody that doesn't have any exposure to it beforehand needs to like understand this is what day to day really looks like. It's not this TV show, or even if you realize that TV show is not real, what you might perceive, that's not what it's going to actually be like.
Well, you gave me a little tap into your life, and I've always known you to work a lot. Especially like when I was doing some work at your house. Natalie would beat you home with the kids. You'd fucking show up at 6, and you sent me an email. What time was it? 1?
Or 1:30?
1:30 in the morning. And it really opened my eyes, and it gave a lot of respect, too, because I feel like, dude, sometimes I feel like I'm on an island by myself working my nuts off. Because not a lot of guys, talk about the grind that they do on a daily basis. And I like sharing that, right? Like, I like sharing it, not only to show, but I just showed you a message, like, people get motivated by that. And you motivated me, dude. That's why I stayed last night in my office, and I was like, well, I'm sure as hell I ain't going to stay till 1 a.m. I'm going to get it out by 10 p.m.
Yeah.
But, like, I worked a 10, 12-hour day in the field, came home, sent them an email, and it's like, that's your life, man. Like, not every day, but
yeah, a lot of times, and it's not necessarily that I recommend it, right? Like, I'm certainly, there's trade-offs, and like I don't get enough sleep, and I'm trying to do better with that, because ultimately I don't want to work myself to death, and things that I'm doing today,
are going to pay off.
They might not show up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so as much as like doing the grind is going to probably pay off at the office or in work, me not sleeping or not maybe being as healthy as I want to be, that's going to also pay off in a negative way later on.
Sure.
So just trying to balance those things, keep that in mind, especially as we continue to get older, is something that I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get better.
And that's your balance. That's one message I try to deliver too, is like, you can operate at that tempo. I can operate at that tempo, but like, some people, like, they have to find the balance that works for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've had this situation with guys that I work with or friends where they'll compare themselves to a guy that's been in the industry for 20, 30 years. Well, why can't we be like that? That wasn't given. They put in the 1 in the morning hours. They put in the 10 o'clock emails, like the 4:30 wake up calls. Like, we've put it in to reap those rewards in 10 years. That's that self-discipline post I just posted. Like, you have to give up a little now to reap that later. And you're doing it, and you're either going to do it or you literally can't, and you got to slowly increase that sleep deprivation and slowly increase your workload to get to that point. So
yeah, or just try to balance it out. You do it when you have to, but try not to do it when you don't have to. And
Yes.
a big thing for me was trying to work out for myself, like, what is really have to?
Sure.
Yeah, if I stay up and work, maybe I'm going to get ahead a little bit for tomorrow. But do I need to do that? Do I have a deadline tomorrow that I have to have
That's
this
a good way to
done?
look at it, too.
Or should I...
Like, your case isn't tomorrow.
Yeah, or should I get some rest tonight?
Yeah.
You know, and so for a long time now, the answer has always been like, well, just do the work.
Yeah.
And it's going to put you in a better place for tomorrow. But ultimately, what it did was like create more opportunity for me to get more work tomorrow, which is a good thing to an extent. But again, it's the balancing between doing that night after night after night and saying, all right, well, that's going to add up over time in a negative way too. As much as it's adding up in a positive way in one respect, it's also adding up in a negative way in another respect. And so just trying to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And balance it out, because again, you may be seeing the positive impact now,
Short term.
but you're not necessarily going to see the negative impact until down the road.
Yeah.
But at that point,
That could be marriage. That could be disconnection from your kids.
you can't do anything to overcome it.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah.
So just try to develop more balance.
Back, because we could go off topic like we're doing right now, and I'm thinking about it. So we're applying for schools. You applied to a bunch. Where'd you get in at? What's that fucking quick story? And where'd you end up?
Yeah, so the main two were, I got in at the University of Indiana.
Okay.
And so that was essentially where I was going to go. I had went out there, had got an apartment, had scheduled for classes, and I was leaving, I think literally the next day. I was at work, and
Where were you working at the time?
I was managing like a pool in a community center in the neighborhood that I grew up in.
Okay.
And so I was like, I think I was sitting poolside.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like trying to work, but also like enjoy my last day before going off to law school, and got a call from Ohio State that I was kind of waiting on. And they said, we got a spot for you if you want it. And I said, I'm supposed to go to Indiana tomorrow. And said, well, we start orientation on Monday.
And what day was this? Like a Friday?
I think this was like a Thursday or Friday.
That's crazy.
And I was moving to Indiana, but there was like a week or like whatever that rest of that week was.
Yeah.
And then the full next week before they started the following Monday, I was just moving there a little bit early to get settled in.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, how about this? I'm not going to commit to come to school there. Like, I have all this in Indiana. I have nothing in Columbus.
Yeah.
I'll come for orientation because Indiana doesn't start till the following week.
Yeah.
And if we can figure it out, then maybe I'll come there.
You literally told him this.
Yeah. And
Jesus,
so
the balls on you.
luckily,
Dude. And is that where you really wanted to go?
that's ultimately, where I wanted to go.
Hey, I really want to go there, but I don't want to tell you guys this.
Well, it wasn't so much that. It was literally just because, like, I have an apartment. I'm in a lease. I got,
Jesus
like, books and
Christ.
stuff at this other school. I'm supposed to go here, and now, like, I'm got to
Like, your life is planned in Indiana.
Orientation starts in 48 hours.
Yeah.
So-
now, correct me if I'm wrong, you and Natalie broke up for a little period.
That wasn't until during law school.
So you guys were together at
But
this
we're
point.
together at that point, yeah.
Wow, okay, so how do you break, all right, so go ahead.
but
How do you break this shit? Like, this is crazy.
She's back at home. She's working after graduating. I moved home, like I said, to help my family and myself adjust and to start the process of getting into law school. And then, so luckily, my roommate from undergrad, TJ, lived in Columbus.
Okay.
And so I call him. I'm like, hey, this happened. Can I stay with you till, like, I figure this out?
Yeah.
Or if I'm even going there? And yeah, sure. So I
That's
go
awesome.
down there.
That's a brotherhood, though.
And I end up, to kind of condense the story, go to orientation, and Ohio State kind of went above and beyond to make it work. They worked out things with scholarship. They even said, how much are you into the apartment in Indiana? Like, first month's rent, down payment. I don't know what it was, $1,600. We'll give you a one-time grant stipend to like compensate you for the money that you got sunk in there that you're not going to get back. And so they really, almost like Heidelberg, like, what can we do to make it work so you can be here? And based on all of that, in that first day of orientation, I told them, like, this is where I want to be. You guys are doing what you can to make it work. We didn't have all the details figured out yet, but they had demonstrated to me that they were in it with me to figure them out. And so I said, I'm coming here, called Indiana, so I'm not coming there anymore. And so I spent the first month of law school living on TJ's couch, trying to find an apartment in Columbus while simultaneously going to law school.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And then
That's awesome.
TJ lived like a half an hour north of Columbus, so
Wow.
making that drive and
So is law
just
school,
getting into it.
I mean, I don't even know, like, what would it be, post-grad? Or no, is that graduate? Or, like, I guess what would they call that?
So law school is a doctorate level program. So
Okay.
when you graduate with a JD or Juris Doctorate.
So how's that process work in terms of, are you driving to a classroom every day?
Law school is a lot like high school. At least at Ohio State it is. And so it's interesting. Like, we went to a small school, like 1,200 kids.
Yeah, we can walk to class.
in the middle of a field.
Yep.
And Ohio State is one of the largest universities in the world.
Yeah.
That covers a huge amount of space.
20 miles or something crazy.
And like, you got to drive from one side of campus to the other, and takes you probably 10 minutes. But the law school is one building.
Oh, nice. The one
And-
building. That's convenient.
Yeah, and so you have it's kind of the best, ended up being the best of both worlds in a way.
Yeah.
So I had a small academic type feeling because literally it was like high school. You're
Yeah.
in one building.
Yep.
I got a locker. My class is the
Wait,
same.
really?
Yeah.
Is there hold on, you got a locker in law school. Did they give you, like, did they issue you a locker to, like,
Yeah, like bring your own lock.
get the fuck out of
Like,
here?
turn the dial.
That's crazy.
Or maybe they had like
I don't
a
even
thing
think-
built into the locker.
I
I don't
haven't-
remember exactly.
I haven't even used a dial lock. So, I mean, I'd have to reset my brain, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I could probably pick one up and use it, but it's like, that's crazy.
So in a lot of ways, especially again at Ohio State, it was like high school because at Ohio State, everybody that was in that class was effectively in that class. You, on occasion,
you
would
all
have
started at the same time,
started at the
freshman or whatever they consider it.
so you have 1L, 2L, 3L. Occasionally, you'd have somebody that was in a dual degree program that might extend out their time to another semester. Or we even had one guy, he wasn't in my starting. Actually, he was there when I started, and he was still there when I left because he was doing a JD, so getting a law degree, and a medical degree. So he was both a medical
What
student.
the fuck's he do nowadays?
I have no clue.
Fly spaceships?
Maybe. Probably runs a Cleveland Clinic or something.
You don't even know this guy.
No, I don't know him personally.
Because he
but
was
I
there
knew him
before you?
He was there before me. He was there. He was still there after
What's
me.
What's that movie where the guy goes to, he's in college. It's like a party college movie.
Like the National Lampoon's one?
Yeah, like
The Van Wilder?
Van Wilder.
Yeah.
But he's like the smart Van
But
Wilder.
like, yeah, the smartest guy to...
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Was
Like,
he
he'd be in
Asian
the-
or like Indian? Or was he just like a white guy?
No, he was a black guy, I think, of African descent, like from Africa. And,
Wow, that's awesome.
He'd be in the law library sometime, like in his white coat, because he had like come from medical school.
Dude, we got to find this guy's name. We got to get him on the
I
podcast.
could probably figure out.
We're going to find this guy. We want you on here.
I don't know where he's at.
We
He
think
could be-
Cory's cool. This guy makes Cory and I look like
Yeah.
idiots.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So talk about someone on their grind. I mean, he was probably there for like 6.
Dude, whenever I feel
7
like
years.
I'm doing good, this just humbles me a lot, dude.
So you had people that were in that system, but law school's generally 3 years.
Yep.
At other schools, particularly like the ones that are in Cleveland, I have a lot of colleagues that were either in like a part-time program that maybe stretched it out over 4 years, or they went at night. And so their classes were a little bit more separated, where ours, it was only a full-time program. So you really got to know the people that were in your class like you would a high school class, or like we did at Heidelberg, because you were doing a lot of the same things. You were all in that one building together for most of the day. And we had classes that would be early in the morning or late or at night. But for the most part, you kind of had a core set of hours, and most people were there during that time. So you got that, but you also had access to the full school. So I could go to all their gyms. I got football tickets. You can you could even go and take classes in other
just to pick up knowledge.
buildings, or if you wanted to work them in, you could even get credit towards.
Dude, I had a
towards
buddy when we were in high school. His stepdad was a teacher at Solon, but he was a substitute teacher. And this dude was so smart, he would go sit in on college classes at Akron and Kent. Simply, he would look up, like, what's going on? I'm going to take that course.
Yeah.
Just to fucking learn.
Yeah.
Like, the dude was just yearning for
I
knowledge.
like to learn.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Wow. All right, so I want to talk about, because this is important to a lot of guys our age, relationships, going through a lot of this stuff. Because like you said, you and Natalie broke up at a time. And you, obviously you're married, you have a great marriage and kids. I want to tap into that. We'll be right back. I think it's super important to maybe walk through that a little for people, to understand anybody who's going to law school, med school, any kind of long-term commitment, and how you could really maybe coach somebody through, like, hey, this is what we dealt with. This is how we fix that problem. Because I just think, me being a new father coming up, dude, I have an awesome marriage, but there's so many people that deal with it. I think this is a good learning experience. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Check this out. 148. So I looked at this. I looked at my chip before, and I deleted a bunch. Well, I was looking at settings for my new camera, and I switched it over to 4K.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're higher resolution, you cut down.
Yeah.
I might have to pop in a new chip in a little bit.
Whatever you want to do. Sorry, we're running long.
No, it's great, dude. It's great. And Lindsay's cousin, he's gonna love this. He's a bro like us. He got his law degree. He's a lawyer. And he's a couple years older than us, but like around the same age. And he ended up practicing for a while, hated it, and now he's a vice president of like a massive bridge building company out of Michigan. And so he essentially like is the vice president, but he also is like one of the main guys with law and all the shit there. But I know he checks out all my stuff, and I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Once this is out, I'm gonna push it to him.
That's what I was talking about before. Like, you don't have to be an attorney.
Well, yeah, and that clicked on me. I'm like, Nick is gonna love this.
A lot of companies find value in what you learn in law school, which is essentially a way of thinking and writing.
Yes.
And analyzing problems.
Yeah.
And they find value in that. So you're not trapped, which is ultimately what I found attractive and took me to law school. Like, even going into law school, I didn't know, like, oh, I want to be this courtroom attorney or I want to be this big corporate attorney. Like, I just knew a law degree was valuable.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked the subject matter. And so said, well, even at the end of this, if I don't kind of take the normal track and be a practicing
somebody
attorney,
will hire you.
I can do something with this. Somebody will find it valuable.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, welcome back. So what we're going to talk about is we went to school with Natalie, and you guys dated through college. You dated through law school, and there was a time where you guys broke up. I don't know how long, never really talked to you about that. But I guess walk us through that for everybody on how you balance that, how you guys essentially came back and was like, hey, like, this will work. Because so many people probably deal with this. And there's so many people that got married, just like you did, but also broke up a little bit in that process to understand each other. So can you speak on that? And you don't have to go too deep if you don't want to, but dude, I think it's important.
Yeah. So Natalie and I started dating our sophomore year at Heidelberg.
Okay.
But became friends in our freshman year. So I mean, even till today, I think that's a foundational part of our relationship, is that we were friends first.
Okay.
And then ultimately started dating in that sophomore year and continued to grow that friendship alongside of our relationship as a couple. And so, as I mentioned, when we graduated, I moved home, she moved home, she started working, and I was going through that transition year.
Which wasn't close. Like, we're talking
We're
an hour apart.
An hour apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that year. But, we would still try to see each other every weekend or every other weekend, and sometimes it would stretch longer than that, or we'd string a few weekends together. But, try to talk on the phone, every day and just continue to communicate and try to grow our relationships the best that we could, even though it was long distance. I think also having such a strong relationship with, like, her family. I mean, she's got a twin sister. She's got an older sister.
Yep.
I have a super close relationship with them.
Yep.
They're some of my very good friends. her parents, have been like second parents to me, and so
Sure.
that certainly helped. And so when I got into law school, I was in Columbus, and now we're 2 hours apart, effectively.
Yeah.
And because she had graduated and was working, and being from a small community, a lot of her friends were getting engaged and getting married or starting families. And I think that that's something that she always wanted. At that point, we had been dating for 4 years or so. And so
It's like, hey, the time.
she was like, I want to take these steps with you. And I just didn't really feel like I was in a place to do that, both coming off of having lost my dad and then trying to figure out law school. And probably the most correct academic statement that I have ever heard or experienced in my life, at least, is in law school, they scare you to death, they work you to death, then they bore you to death. So you got 3 years of law school. That first year is like such a shift in how you do school.
Okay.
And I did well in undergrad, but it's just a different way of learning. It's a different way of taking in and processing information. And you're doing so much work, and the whole time you're wondering, am I doing any of this right?
Okay.
And so you're kind of scared from that way. And most people that are going there are pretty good academically.
Yep.
And law school, for the most part, comes down to one test at the end of the semester. That's your grade. There's not homework and other projects to like figure out where you are throughout.
So you can't grade yourself throughout the.
So you're just constantly feel like you're on uneven footing.
Sure.
You don't know how you're doing, and you
Do you
don't
think
even
they
know
do
how
that
to tell.
purposeful, or is it just the way it's designed to gradually introduce you to how to learn differently?
I think it's a mix of both.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely feel it in
Sure.
that first year.
For you to say
in
that, like
first
that, yeah.
semester. And then the second year is very busy. You're already starting to apply for the bar, which you don't take till the end of your third year, but you're going through application process and doing stuff for that.
Your first year?
No, your second year.
Oh, okay.
So first year, you're just like, what the hell am I doing? Am I doing any of this right? I know I'm doing a lot of stuff, but I may be doing it all wrong. Don't know. And so that's the scare you to death. The second year is the work you to death because you're doing the school. Actually, second years kind of take the leadership roles and like actually doing organizations at the school.
Yep.
They're normally the ones putting in a lot of the work
Yep.
for those organizations. You're going through the application process, so you got a lot going on in your second year. So that's the work you to death. And then the third year, you take a kind of leadership role in the organizations where you're not doing as much of the work. You're kind of advising from having done it the year before.
Yep.
But at that point, the academic part of it almost feels like undergrad again. And then you're just kind of like, I'm now in a waiting pattern to like graduate and take the bar.
Okay.
And so that's the bore you to death part of it. And so as I'm kind of going through the law school process, like I said, Natalie is kind of we were just at different kind of points in our life.
Yep.
She's working, wants to move on with the relationship. I didn't feel like we could. And it caused a lot of tension between the two of us. And I just felt like she was becoming very unhappy
Sure.
with our relationship. It was putting a lot of stress on me in addition to the law school stress and other things like that. And so ultimately kind of felt like maybe we need to take some time and see if this is right, or just like maybe the space will ultimately be good for us.
Yeah.
And then, I brought this up several times, but I think God just had a plan for me and for us.
Yeah.
And fortunately and unfortunately, there was a series of events that happened after we kind of separated that kept bringing us back together.
Sure.
Like one of her grandparents died over the summer or the fall after we had broken up. And like I said, we had been together for 4 or 5 years at that point, and I
Out of
close
respect.
with the family, so I go to the funeral and we get to see each other there. She got really sick at one point where she was in the hospital, and so I went and visited her there.
Oh, wow.
And then I invited her to come down to, again, going back to law school, being like high school, we have a law prom. It's like a formal event.
You slide dog.
So I invited her to that, and so we get to spend time together. And so over
It's crazy how God works, man.
that year apart,
Like so much of that.
things just kept happening where we kept having the opportunity to see each other. So I think the space, but also still staying in touch
Yeah.
that way kind of led us both to realize that there is still something here in this relationship that's worth working for and fighting
Sure.
for. And then so ultimately, after about a year or so apart, we decided to get back together officially.
Yep.
And have been together since. And so my third year, I graduate, preparing for the bar, which pretty much starts right after you graduate. The bar so that's in May, bar's in July. And over that course of time, she's actually like, you think you're going to propose in the next year? And I'm like, well,
Let's get this party started.
I got to see how this bar goes. And she's like, but I got confidence in you. I was like, I'm glad one of us does.
Yeah, right.
I was like, but yeah, I think if I pass the bar, then that's probably in the cards for the next year. She's like, because there's this wedding venue that I'm really excited about. And
Not my wedding venue, guys.
Yeah,
wasn't built yet.
Yeah, you didn't even own this place yet.
Yeah. Didn't even own this house yet.
But they book about 18 months out. So
no shit. She was planning.
We're in prime time if we want a chance of getting this. So basically was I'm willing to risk the deposit.
Yeah.
To
fuck it. Yeah.
Get this thing.
Yeah.
So ended up passing the bar, and then ended up getting engaged in the spring.
Dude, what a win
that year.
Stacking wins right there.
Yeah.
Literally. So, dude, it really shows your maturity while going to school to go back when was it her grandfather or grandmother?
I think that was her grandmother.
So there's a lot of people that would have just pushed it off, right? And didn't show up. And I talk about it when I made the podcast about trying to be a father and be present. Good men are present, right? We find a way to be present when needed to. And I compliment you on that, man, because, dude, so many guys could have walked away. So many guys could have shut down and focused on school. I remember when I was doing medical sales, I would meet a lot of people that were doing their rotations, kind of similar to law, right? Where, dude, I would know them for 3 years from when they just got there to by the time they became a doctor. And I would see a lot of them dating someone. I got to meet those people because we built relationships, and then, dude, they were gone. And they dated for years. And it was simply because I'm focusing on school, I'm not dealing with this, etc. And you did it, dude. So, I mean, that's a really big deal to me, especially because I've seen a lot of people fail at it. So for you to succeed at it's really cool. And I didn't know that about you.
I appreciate that. And it's obviously been great for me, and certainly Natalie had a large part in that, probably more than I did, because I appreciate you.
You better give me a shout out for this, Natalie.
Saying that, I show maturity in it, but, I'm sure there was times that I didn't.
Of course, we're guys.
And she probably had to be the mature one at moments, but I think ultimately that's why we work well together, is because that we're a good team. And I know you've talked about this on other episodes before, but the communication is really so key.
Yeah.
And it helps you overcome a lot, whether it's the challenges of being in a long distance relationship or challenges of being in the same house every day, for too long, or having different types of jobs that you have to work through. How does the schedule work? We were talking about how to handle childcare. Somebody's got a more set schedule, someone's got a more flexible schedule. How do we make that work? Well, you can't figure out how to make it work unless you talk about it.
Yes.
And so that's why the communication is so key. And I know you brought that up before, but it's played out in our relationship as well.
That's awesome. All right, so you engaged. Do you guys immediately move in together? Do you move back to Cleveland? Do you apply for a job? What's that process look like?
Yeah, so coming out of Ohio State, I was looking for...
Wait, were you working through law school? How do you pay for that?
So some of it was student loans.
Okay. Did you pay them off yet, or are you still paying them?
Still working on it.
Okay.
Intentionally, I probably could have, but...
We're going to play some big bets this year, guys.
Luckily,
good stocks or something.
I got fairly good interest rates where kind of my money's better... working for me.
I think we talked about this.
Interest rates.
We talked about this. Yeah.
So it's if you got a mortgage at 2%, why would you pay it off? Because then,
if your stock returns are 8,
my stocks are 8. Yeah. Why take that away and pay off the 2% mortgage when I'm making 8%? So that's kind of the situation with my loans right now. So it's not bad debt by any means.
Yeah.
And so I was working here and there, but because school's taking so much of your time, and a lot of the time you're in internships and things like that where you're not getting paid for. So you're doing that type of work to gain experience.
Yeah.
But I would work in the summer, and luckily enough, both of my summer jobs were paid. One was at a small law firm in Cleveland. The other one, I worked for the city of Akron's civil division, so doing some municipal law for them.
Tickets?
No, not so much that. It was a variety of different civil things. They dealt with a lot of pothole situations. If you've been through Akron, you probably know why.
That's funny. Yeah. That's crazy.
Area, tax stuff, property stuff.
Yeah.
So did that for a summer, and then in the third year interviewed at several different firms of different sizes, from big international firms to small local firms in Columbus, Cleveland, and elsewhere. But I focused my search on Cleveland. I knew I wanted to come back. If I can't turn it down opportunity would have come up in Columbus in particularly, or maybe elsewhere, I probably would have explored it. But my focus of my search was Cleveland. And so going back to the connections that I had with Ed's, when I went in for practice with the wrestling team, talked to my coaches, let them know kind of what was going on in my life. My coach said, give me your resume, I'll get it to the right people.
Wait, the same coach?
My high school coach at Ed's said, give me your resume.
No, but he was still there when you went through fucking college and and law school?
He's still there. He's no longer the head coach, but
that's
he's
crazy.
Still around. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coach Urbis, he's a saint. For sure.
Literally. I mean,
one of the best people, one of the best.
But it's amazing
men
to
I've
think
ever met.
that, I mean, so many people knock like private schooling, and if you have the opportunity to go, I mean, look at that pedigree of just somebody's there long term, right? And that just shows consistency and loyalty and helping you out 10, 15 years later, almost like that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm blessed and lucky that I got that experience with Ed's, but that's not to say that it couldn't be at public school, wherever you're going to be a part of, whether it's high
tradition,
school, college, whatever it is. The people that are involved, their integrity, the quality of the program, the quality of the relationships, and you mentioned this before, something that I saw there and then has really been important to me since I've graduated is like giving back to a program that have given me so much, because I feel an obligation to do it. I want to do it, and I ultimately want to give back to the guys that are there now and continue a precedent that was set for me, in that when they're in my position, they'll also want to give back, because those that came before them gave to them, just like the guys that came before me kind of gave back and helped me out, and got my resume to my coach, who got it to a legal group of alumni within the school. The managing partner at my firm is Ed's alumni as well.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
So this is where it starts.
Connected to Cavich was my resume going from the wrestling program to the legal group at Ed's to the managing partner at my now firm, and called me up and said, want to interview you, and kind of outside their normal process.
Yeah.
And so did an interview there, got an offer, and accepted it. Started working there in August of 2016, and still there today.
Here we are.
Yeah.
What is it?
10 years
10
later.
years. When's your anniversary?
August 16th.
They're going to give you a rollie or what?
No.
We talked about it.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right. We're going to jump into, I want to do kind of your career growth.
Okay.
But also I want to talk about now, because I want to talk about your career growth, but building in how you became a father during that process, because there's so many people that really fear that, like, hey, having a kid is going to stunt my career path, right? And we hear that all the time, and I just think there's always ways to figure it out, and it might not be the best way, it might not be his way or my way works for you, but just know there's different paths to essentially have kids, raise a good family, have a good marriage, and kind of set that forward. So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, sounds good.
right, guys, we're back, and one thing we're going to focus on now is just got his first job, which is hopefully your last job, based on 10 years into it, unless you want to start your own firm. But I guess work us up to the point you have your first son's Griffin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so work us up to that point. Like, you have your first son, you're going through this, and then you're a partner. So I'm very curious on, like, how that even happens. Is there, like, milestones you have to hit coming from a sales background? Like, so walk us through that until little man number one, and then we'll kind of go from there. So
Okay, yeah. So, like I said, started at Cabbage in 2016. You'd asked about, like, me and Natalie moving in together.
Yeah.
After we got married, she moved out this way. We moved into an apartment in Lakewood.
Okay.
And then we were there for 4 or 5 months, and then found our current home in Middleburg Heights and moved there. She actually got a job working for the city of Brunswick, where I'm from.
Yep.
From, like,
Did you get her in that, or
No, she found that.
just organically happened?
Yeah, kind of a month after or so after I had moved out.
Yeah.
For the interim time, she was actually driving back to her old job in Huron County.
What was her bachelor's in?
She got a bachelor's in business administration, I believe it was.
Okay,
So
so
she
that
was doing a lot of business classes.
Yeah.
She's always
because we took a lot of classes together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot of business stuff, and then she's always been public sector.
Okay.
So she's always worked at a city or county municipal level.
That's kind of her focus and what she's done.
In different roles.
Yeah.
So right now she's a HR administrative assistant for the city of Brunswick.
Yep.
And she's, I guess, been doing that since probably early 2019, I guess it would have been.
Yeah, she's been there a little bit.
Yeah.
Going on 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she got that job. Had nothing to do with me, just happened to be in Brunswick.
So her working in public sector, does that do anything with, like, school debt?
Yeah, so her school debt was able to be forgiven after 10 years.
Yeah.
Under the public sector forgiveness program that was in place at the time. So she was able to have a chunk of her debt.
So now you're just dragging us down right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just you holding us back, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. That's funny. Okay.
Yeah, so she's doing that. So moving in Middleburg, working at the firm, and trying to put in the time there, grinding away. And just like a lot of other things, there was certainly ups and downs, and
Sure.
was able, again, luckily draw back from prior experiences and having to go through difficult times, in sports, or losing my dad, or getting adjusted to law school and the way that all started.
Yeah.
And utilize that and the lessons I learned from it to work through the challenges that I had and started my legal career as well. But ultimately was able to kind of persevere through that. And then, so Griffin is 4.5 years old. So he was born in May of 2021. So not quite a COVID baby, but kind of during that time. And then this will be my 4th year as a partner at Cabbage.
Okay.
So that kind of happened after Griffin, and then during us having our second child, Beckett.
So how do they? Is it just a tenure thing, or is it performance based? Do you have to buy in? What's that process look like for people wanting to know?
Yeah, so it's different everywhere.
Okay.
At my firm, it's a kind of comprehensive view. It's going to be reviewed on a case-by-case basis.
Yep.
Some of it is tenure-based. Some of it has to do with your ability to generate business. Some of it has to do with the work you're putting in, how much you're kind of generating from a work standpoint, your involvement with the firm, like what other roles you're taking on there from a leadership or a firm administration standpoint, things you're doing outside the firm, how you're getting involved with the community. So they kind of look at everything. Usually you'll have people that kind of put themselves up or at least make it known amongst the firm partnership that I want to be considered as a partner. My process, which I think is a fairly common one, at least at my firm, is I went around to the various partners at the firm, expressed that interest, answered questions, or told them, why I think it's the right time, why I think, based on all of those criteria, that it makes sense for me and it makes sense for the firm. And then they, as the partnership, vote on it.
Okay.
And
so is it a board? Do they have like a board?
Yeah, so the partnership ultimately runs the firm, owns the firm, runs the firm.
So the partnership is a board, kind of.
In a way, it's more akin to members in a LLC or shareholders in a company.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
That we're all owners of the business, of the law firm, and then we do have a board.
Okay. You do.
A 3-person board.
Yeah.
We also have a managing partner who's part of that board, and they kind of handle the week-to-week, day-to-day decisions. Oftentimes, the managing partner has to take on the role of handling kind of spot decisions that might come up. And so there's different positions on the board as well that deal with different things. We have a CFO that handles financials, kind of also serves in a controller role. That
now, are they also a lawyer or no?
That person,
CFO?
That person is not.
It's a true CFO.
But the board members are all attorneys, practicing attorneys at the firm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is it, me as a small business owner, if I wanted to bring someone on as a partner, I'm probably going to change the paperwork, right? I mean,
maybe
you're my lawyer, so maybe. So do they change a bunch of stuff on the back end for that, or is it more of like a profit share type thing?
So, like you being an LLC, typically operate under an operating agreement. Yep. You being a single member LLC can have what's called a deck in lieu of operating agreement, essentially
which you made me sign.
Short form document, because you are the only owner and member of the company, and so there's really nobody else to have to worry about how this entity is going to operate from at that level. We are technically incorporated as a corporation, but we're a legal professional association.
Okay.
So we have a kind of a partnership agreement that defines how the firm is going to run.
Okay.
And that kind of sets at least the broad bounds and some specifics of how we're going to deal with different things, from distribution to operation of the firm.
Yep.
And then we have partnership meetings where we decide on more nuanced aspects of it, or maybe might even change the agreement, just like a company could do if it was a corporation amongst its shareholders, or LLC its members.
Okay.
If you brought on multiple people as owners of your business, you may have members meetings where you guys talk about company operations and how you want to see that play out, or what changes you might want to make to that operating agreement. But that operating agreement also ultimately sets the foundation of how that company's going to operate.
Now, you get hired for anybody new out there, and even myself, I'm just interested in, are you going out and chasing work? Because, you see me, I make my posts online, I advertise on different avenues to market myself. We go to expos, know. How does a lawyer or just a firm, because I'm not driving down the road and seeing your face on it.
No.
You're not Tim Misney.
I am not.
Like, how does that process work for you guys? How do you draw business?
So it works differently for different attorneys. What Tim does definitely works for the type of law that he practices and the way that he sets his stuff up. For me and for my firm, and I think a lot of people at my firm, we have a variety of approaches that we use, but it's in large part about relationship building.
Really?
It's about relationship building with other professionals. It's about relationship building in groups and associations.
Okay.
It's about relationship building in social settings, whether that be a country club or gun club or whatever it might be. You got guys that are members at like traditional country clubs attached to golf courses.
Yeah.
Hillendale.
Oh, yeah.
Medina, people are there or they have contacts there. So, I know a lot of accountants and bankers, financial planners, business owners that are part of different organizations. And so what we really focus on is building up relationships, because at the end of the day, a philosophy that I have and my firm has as well is like people ultimately do business with people that they know, like, and trust.
Yes.
The fact that we're good attorneys is kind of expected, and we certainly are, and we're gonna work hard or fight hard for you. But you're gonna choose to do business with us and have us serve as your counsel or representative, because you know us, you like us, and you trust us.
Yeah.
And so we try to build a relationship based on that, and and hopefully the work comes from it. But at the end of the day, we focus on trying to help people out, help businesses out with their problem, but ultimately there's people behind those businesses. So when the focus is on helping people, then I think a lot of the other things just come with that.
Sure. So when an example I have is my accountant, Chris, we've talked about.
Yeah.
I pay him monthly to manage my books. We do quarterly reviews. I could call him for profit and loss. All these different things are tied to my monthly payment. Is there, like, if I need you to do something, beyond just, hey, like a brotherly phone call, obviously, you bill for that. Is there companies that pay you guys monthly to, is there like a management aspect or like a legal team aspect?
Again, so it may vary.
Is that a thing?
It may vary from firm to firm. There are firms that have a structure like that where you're going to kind of pay them to be available to you for a set period of time or to do a set amount of things. We don't really have that.
Okay.
We do take retainers sometimes, but that's more of a deposit.
How the hell does a retainer even work? Because I know a lot of people always, do you got a lawyer on retainer? Cory's not on retainer, guys.
So
how does that work?
It's in large part become a colloquial term, oftentimes derived from pop culture or movies or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think most people oftentimes think of it as what we were just talking about, of like, oh, I got them on retainer, so like I'm paying them to like be available to me.
Sure.
We don't do that. If you give me a retainer, essentially what you're doing is you're putting money on deposit. Most of the work that I do and that the attorneys at my firm do, is done on an hourly basis. And so if
you'll just draw from that?
If you put a retainer with us, we're just drawing from that because you got kind of a pot of money sitting there to be utilized.
Yeah.
And then if it exceeds that pot, we'll bill for it over and above that on an hourly basis, or you could replenish that pot. Each situation and arrangement with a client may be different. We occasionally do fixed fee stuff, particularly in the estate planning world.
Sure.
Some of that work lends itself better to a fixed fee, where we say, all right, I need a simple will, or I need a will and this type of trust. And so,
you guys do trust?
Yeah, we do all that type of work.
Well, I didn't know. Okay, we'll talk about it.
Complex estate planning.
Yeah.
To the simplest form.
Well, there's just a lot of things,
board.
having the baby coming up. It's like there's things on my checklist that
makes you think about it.
Well, it does. Yeah, I want to tackle that stuff, and it's just good to know that I could lean on you more for than just a legality contract thing that I deal with. So.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. For you and for my other clients or referral sources or contacts or really anybody, I have a colleague and a friend who has a phrase that I've adopted a bit because I think it's so good. Is like his ultimate goal when he's networking and building relationships is he wants to be the call. Now that whether it is you have a legal issue, or a legal issue in his area that he deals with, or a legal issue in another area, or your toilet doesn't work,
Sure.
and you need a plumber. people know that he's got those connections because of the network that he's built up.
Sure.
And people know, like, and they trust him. And so they're like, I don't know any plumbers. I'll call Nolan.
Yeah.
Nolan probably knows one.
Wow.
And Nolan does.
Just built out of trust.
And he connects you. And Nolan's not benefiting from that.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to the helping people part. He's able to help this client, and he's able to help this plumber and connect the two of them, solve their problem, get this guy some work. And so
connect point A to point AB.
Yeah, ultimately, he's just trying to help them solve their problem, and he's helping this guy by giving him work. Nobody's paying him for that. He's not getting a kickback, but he's helping people. And then ultimately, when they have a legal issue or this guy needs help with his plumbing business, well, who are they going to call? The guy that helped them out solve their problem and give them some business. So that's a philosophy that he's made very successful, and I've tried in large part to put into practice myself.
I think we covered a lot of what you wanted to talk to. We didn't talk about AI yet. Can you talk about that a little bit, about how it's affecting your job? I guess how you guys are going to utilize it. Are you seeing more of it? I guess, what are your thoughts on AI and how it's taken over just your sector a little bit, or not necessarily taken over, but pros and cons of it?
Yeah. So just like almost everything else, like AI is a hot topic in the legal industry, and is definitely becoming a big part of what we're doing. Kind of the big legal research companies have made a strong effort to incorporate that into what they do. So the companies that back in the day printed the books that our most senior attorneys would go to and look up cases in back when they were doing legal research as young attorneys.
Sure.
Then became the companies that had the online databases where they essentially took those books and put them online and then slowly developed that. Well, now they're the companies that are incorporating AI into their legal research. So that's one thing. Then you also have the AI that everyone else knows about, whether it be ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or Grok or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You got attorneys using that, and then you have these other companies that have found this to be their kind of niche industry, and they're designing legal specific AI that focuses on the type of work or problems that might be encountered by attorneys in the work that they do. And so it's a big part of what we're utilizing as tools to become more efficient and get even better answers for the clients that we're servicing. But you're also seeing it utilized by those clients.
Which we were just talking about.
Yeah, and that comes with a lot of good, but also with some potential risks. And so my view on it is that my job as kind of a legal advisor is to talk to my clients and talk to really, anybody that I'm in contact with in a professional setting, and kind of inform them what I'm seeing about it. And that's, while AI is a great tool and a great starting point over and above what maybe you could have done with Google or whatever it was before, a lot of it comes down to the prompts that you're putting in.
Yep.
And it's kind of garbage in, garbage out.
Yep.
And then also the ability to recognize maybe some question marks that arise in the answers that you're getting back, or to realize that there may be some factors that are going into an answer that AI is just incapable, at least at this point, of picking up on. And my expertise or another attorney's expertise oftentimes is going to give them that perspective and that insight to do that in our legal setting, that you might not be able to pick up on as somebody that doesn't have that background in using the AI. And a good example that has come up in my work is that I had a client call me, and they had a situation relating to a mechanic's lien on a property.
Quickly, what's a mechanic's lien for people who don't know?
Yeah, so it could be for a lot of different things, but generally speaking, a mechanic's lien.
Use me as an example, as a contractor.
F1 does work on a property. You got a contract with them for $10,000, and they don't pay you. And in order to secure that payment, you have a right under Ohio law and the law in most states to file a lien against that property as security for that payment. So you're essentially saying, until you pay me this money, I am just like a mortgage would attach to a property.
You can't sell the house until you pay me.
You can't sell the house, or by having a lien on a property, just like a mortgage might do if you defaulted, you could foreclose on the property and essentially force payment to happen. Now, there's different methods under the code where a homeowner or a property owner could contest that or fight against it.
Yep.
And that was kind of the situation that I had here. I had a client that had a property. They were looking to sell it. A mechanics lien was put on it. They felt unjustifiably. And they were looking to close in like 2 weeks. And so they called me and explained the situation and said, what can we do about it? And so I'm talking to them, and this situation has become more prevalent. That's a big thing that I've noticed with the advancement of AI, is that I'll be on a call with somebody, and I can tell that I'm kind of going up against AI.
Yeah,
like
sure.
They've done their research, they've used AI, and they're kind of questioning me of like, well, this is what I'm seeing, but why is that not right? And so in this instance, they said, well, what it's telling me is there's a mechanism under Ohio law that I can essentially remove this lien.
Yeah.
And so this is a good example, is that everything that AI was telling them was right.
Yeah.
But what AI wasn't picking up on and couldn't pick up on is that in order to utilize that mechanism, you have to file something with a court.
Okay.
Well, when you do that, you are now subject to the judge wanting to do anything about what you filed.
Okay. Well,
Particularly in Cuyahoga County, you got busy dockets. That might not happen for a month. Well, they wanted to close in 2 weeks. So yes, what AI was telling them, there is this mechanism, this is how you do it, is right. But what it wasn't telling them is that mechanism is going to take you longer than this other strategy that we could maybe utilize to get this lien off so you can close in 2 weeks. And so that's where I was able to come in and I think add some value and round out the picture that AI started to paint for them.
Sure.
And then come up with a strategy that was going to work, taking into account the fact that they wanted to close in a certain amount of time, and there was almost no way under normal circumstances the court was even going to look at what they filed, let alone deal with it within that period of time. And so, maybe had they known that and then inputted another prompt, AI would have spit out an answer to that. But unless you know that, unless you have to deal with courts and kind of know that sometimes they're a little bit slow or they're just backlogged, then you don't even know to ask that.
Yeah, right.
And so that's kind of what you got to be careful with when you're using AI, as a client trying to run your business. Great starting point, can come up with great stuff. But, if you have the opportunity to check it with legal counsel, or if it's a more of an accounting question and run it by somebody, I think it's always a good thing to do because they might pick up on something that AI just didn't pick up on, or you might have not known to include in the prompt.
I think that you guys may, and maybe you have already started changing your billing procedure. And the way I'm looking at this and how AI is going to affect you is, so back in the day for copper pipes, remember I fixed your one hose bib, right? Mm-hmm. Back in the day, you'd have to solder that pipe. It takes some time, it takes some skill. Well, now I have a tool that costs a couple $1,000s, but I could get it done in half the time or faster. But I still need to recoup that cost of that tool. And then in the long run, now I'm completing tasks faster. So do I bill the same hourly rate, or do I flat rate it? Does that make sense? Where I think you guys might have to move to, hey, I'm not going to bill this customer because 3 years ago it would have taken me 8 hours to do this research. Now with AI, I could come to a conclusion in 4 hours. So it's either you raise your hourly rate to make up that extra 4 that you lost. But let's be honest, me as a consumer, you see that increase in hourly rate, you're like, oh, pissed. Or you see a flat rate, boom, this is the cost, don't put the hourly. So are you guys essentially at least recognizing that? And two things are going to happen, just like me. It's either going to have to chase more work faster, or you just charge a little bit more and you get it done faster. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, a good analogy and helps to illustrate the fact that, whether it be AI or some other tool like you were able to use for the pipe,
Yeah.
is going to affect the way that work's done, affect the way that work is billed. And so we are seeing that in AI getting incorporated into the legal field.
Yeah.
And it's kind of at the front end. So my firm, like many others, are kind of starting the process of like, all right, what changes might be coming down the road, or what changes are we needing to make now, and what changes can we see coming down the road, and how do we adjust things. And so you may see things that in the past have been billed traditionally on an hourly basis get switched to a flat fee basis. But some of it's just going to be like you with the tool. Like before, with a lesser tool or no tool, it was going to take me 2 to 3 hours to do it. Now it takes me a half an hour.
Yep.
And so I can only bill for half an hour of my labor time. But if I don't do that, some other guy's going to come in and I'm going to bill for 0 because he's going to get the job.
Right.
And so we're going to have to, do the same thing, in that in order to remain competitive in the legal market, we need to stay up on the tools that are available to us and our ability to use them. And if that means that we're going to get work done for our clients quicker, well, that's what it's going to mean. It's going to be better for the client. We're going to remain competitive, and we're going to have more time to bring in more work. And so maybe it increases the volume and lowers the amount of time you're spending on any individual. And it's happened before. So it's a new spin on an old problem. Before, when you had to go to a library and do research by looking in books,
Sure.
It took people a lot more time than once they had the internet.
Right.
So.
And they were able to pivot.
And you were able to pivot then. So we'll figure out a way to pivot, just like, you figure out a way to pivot your business strategy and model and how you're charging, because this new tool that came out, and it's great because I can do things a lot easier and a lot quicker.
Yep.
Well, now instead of doing 1 bathroom this week, I can knock out 3.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think a lot of people, at least in our age, we look at technology as an advancement to benefit us, where there's a lot of people also stuck in the past, where they're so stuck in the past,
Yeah.
where, it's not as good, and it won't be as, as trustworthy or et cetera, but sooner or later we all have to bite the bullet and recognize, like, technology's not slowing down, and we have to pivot. And the guys that don't pivot, we both know, I don't know if you took any marketing classes at Heidelberg, but one thing that we talked about was the Blockbuster effect. Blockbuster grew rapidly, but they never pivoted off of rentals, and so they died. So the whole Blockbuster effect is it's either you could adapt to change or die. And so I see a lot of guys in my industry, you shouldn't use that tool. It's not as good as this. It's not as good as that. Well, it's been proven so far, and it's doing pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So those guys are really starting to phase out, retire, not be as profitable, and they're struggling as we're growing. So I think some people are going to propel forward, and some are just going to get stuck in time, literally.
Yeah. And that's always going to happen. And luckily for you, you're probably not going to get replaced by AI anytime soon.
Right.
Somebody creates a robot that can frame out a room or something like that. But for us, kind of thought that we're having on it is, you do hear some people like, well, AI will replace attorneys or this level of attorney or whatever it might be. But I heard a comment, and I think it originated with a law professor, and I heard it from a younger attorney, is they said, you're not going to get replaced by AI as a young attorney. What you're much more likely to get replaced by is another young attorney who knows how to use the tool.
Yes, that is a good way to look at it.
And I think the same thing goes to your industry, is like, you're not going to get beat out by the tool by itself, but you're going to get beat out by a guy that knows how to utilize it better.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, that's a good way. Yeah.
So that's why we're just, trying to keep up on something that, as you pointed out, is rapidly developing and evolving, and you're coming out with new and better tools all the time. And we just have to pivot and adjust, like you said, and continue to learn and grow and stay competitive in that way.
All right, guys. So final thoughts. Really want to wrap this up with family's so important across the board. We continue to talk about it, and I guess how important was, some role models or, father figures, mother figures, obviously with your father passing, how important she is. Can you give me a couple minutes really quick on just like how important that is, not only to you, but to others out there that may be struggling with like relationships in terms of like, this is where it does benefit you, in times of need. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, family's been such a huge part of my life and influence on my life, still remains so. I know we touched a little bit on my dad, and the part that I don't think I really got to was just how much of his impact being my father, set aside any of the professional stuff, has had on me. And like I'm so thankful that it has been so strong that I can see him and me in the way that I interact with my boys, and in my personality. And he's kind of a silly, fun dad a lot of times with us, and I try to replicate that with my boys, just because it had such an impact on me. And then, just from on the business side, my drive, my hard working, the 1:30 a.m. emails, so much of that comes from my mom. My mom's side of my family had a business. They did commercial floor covering, so sold floor covering to schools and malls, and it was a business that her father, my grandfather, started in Cleveland on West 25th. And just seeing her and the way that she worked growing up had such an impact on me. And certainly the late nights, night owl mentality, I think came from her. She's still doing it,
Yep.
Now. And then my grandfather, had such an influence on me. Actually, on my desk at home, I have his business card in an acrylic case.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he has such an amazing story about devotion to family and hard work. And so he grew up in Cleveland.
This is your grandfather?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
my mom's dad. He grew up in Cleveland, in a family where his dad kind of abandoned their family early on in life. He had an older sister, his mom, and then an older brother. His older brother, growing up, they always thought there was like something wrong with him. Turns out that he think that he was ultimately just deaf from birth.
Oh, wow.
So he couldn't like talk because
Sure.
he had never heard people talk before.
Yeah.
So he couldn't really work. His sister didn't really work. His mom couldn't or didn't.
And back
really
then,
work.
that wasn't like a thing to
It wasn't really a
recognize.
thing. Yeah. And so he, as the youngest, kind of had to take on like the man of the house role.
Your grandfather?
My grandfather.
Yeah.
So he left school, I think, in 8th grade, or maybe even before that.
Oh, wow.
Maybe it was 6th grade, and started like shining shoes on the streets of Cleveland to support his family.
Really? He was a shoe shiner, huh?
And from that did a variety of things, but ultimately came to own a bunch of real estate, got into the floor covering business first as an installer, and then they used to sew carpet, did that, and then grew that business ultimately to become a distributor of floor covering. And then that became the company that he obviously worked at, my grandmother worked at, my mother worked at, her siblings worked at, my older brother worked at, my older cousins have worked at. I grew up like sorting little chips in
What was the name of the company?
warehouse, H.J. Weber.
H.J. Weber. Wow.
Yeah.
And they sold, you said?
So they ended up primarily working for a specific manufacturer of floor covering. Ultimately, that manufacturer started to absorb its distributors. they ended up merging with a distributor out of Columbus that was owned by the manufacturer in part, and then eventually the manufacturer just absorbed everybody. So my grandfather had a building on West 25th that he kept even after the distributorship business closed. They used it as kind of a depot,
like a warehouse type thing.
Yeah, because they had a good warehouse component to it. And that ended up getting sold during COVID, and ultimately the area of Cleveland that it is a very strong Hispanic community, and now is a Hispanic community center called Centro Via.
Oh, really?
25 on West 25th, yeah. And so they've turned it into this great Hispanic space there. We've gotten to go there and see it, and it's pretty cool to get to see
and brought back to life.
Yeah, where the building has gone from, but yeah, from just that devotion to family. And so when I'm up sending those 1:30 a.m. emails, I look at that card, and when it's tough and I'm tired and I don't want to be up doing this stuff, it's like,
what did he do?
What did he do?
Dude, for sure.
And the sacrifices that he had to make to allow me to be in a position where I could go to law school and I could do those things, and that, if you just keep working hard and fighting through your struggles, finding a way to persevere, learning from maybe the setbacks along the way, ultimately you're going to succeed. Even if you don't get to maybe the highest level of goal that you had, like you're still succeeding because you're overcoming those things, and you're definitely going to end up in a much better place than if you just said, I'm going to stop trying, I'm just going to give up. So that has had such a strong impact on me in my business career. And then, both my grandmothers being, such a strong support system. My father's parents, oftentimes I would go to their house and spend time with them as a young kid while my parents were at work, and they did so much with me. My dad's dad being a World War II vet, and being pretty proud of that throughout my life as well. So just such an impact from family, that positive on my life and my career. And then we've talked about some of the coaches and mentors that I've had along the way, both in wrestling and at Heidelberg or at Ed's. And then in my legal career, people that just have really went above and beyond to invest time and energy and effort in me. And that has really gotten me to where I am today, and really created a strong sense of wanting to kind of give back as well. So now I try to find opportunities to help our younger attorneys, or even going back to Ed's, being part of the wrestling program or part of the school, or going back to Heidelberg. And if they have somebody that's considering law school, but they don't really know an attorney, like was the case for me, try to meet with them and say, these are the things that when I was in your position, I wish I knew and wish I would have done differently.
Right.
And so just going back to something we talked about at the beginning, just try to give that knowledge, give that perspective that you just can't possibly have because you've not gone through it yet.
Right. I agree with all that, and one thing I took that kind of from your beginning through high school, through everything, is you're really good at focusing on like a tradition and carrying that on of hard work. And if you look back on everything you've been through, it's like the foundation of everything you've been part of had a good tradition, and so that was passed to you. You've passed it to your kids. You're passing it to the younger wrestlers, passing it to the younger lawyers, right? And you're also still continuing to talk about, like, well, who's next, right? Like, who else can I give back to? So,
and continuing to learn. I think it's such a blessing to kind of be in the position that I am now, where I'm able to do that, but I'm still in a position to learn. And I think most people, are for their whole life, but I still have people that I rely on because they're farther along in their career or their experience as a father. And I ask people all the time that have kids I got a colleague whose kids are now in high school and college. He's got 2 boys, and I say, what did you see? What challenges, what changes happened from their young childhood up to college? Like, what did you really enjoy? What would you have done differently? And, maybe give me some of those things so that when I'm hitting them, I'm going in with a little bit more knowledge than I would have otherwise had.
Right. Man, I don't know. It was really cool to sit down with you. I learned so much more than I expected. I felt like our friendship grew through this, and yeah, if there's anything else you want to tell anybody, you got a message, let's get it out there before we get going.
I mean, the only other thing I would add is just very appreciative of you to invite me here, let me share my story. Hopefully there's pieces and parts that maybe somebody could take from it. I agree with you that I feel like this is the way that you develop that relationship and that bond, and I'm just really thankful to be able to do that, and that we knew each other back at Heidelberg and would come across each other, but have really been able to develop a friendship as kind of our lives have gone on. And I know you've been in other states, and then kind of it's always interesting how kind of things might come full circle, and that's another thing. Like, I didn't realize it when I was in Eds. I don't even know that I realized it at Heidelberg, but how much relationships matter.
Yep.
And now that I'm where I'm at now and see the guys that I went to high school with or the guys I went to college with, and like just how much better and more enriched my life is because of those relationships and the ability to build on them like we are. I just am thankful for that opportunity, and think it's just so invaluable, and just do everything you can to make connections and then build on those relationships, because that's really what matters, whether it's from a business standpoint or I think just like an enjoyment of life standpoint.
Sure. Yeah.
Have people that you can go to when you need help, or that you can be there for when they need it.